Hi, Don.
I didn't think to ask, I mean, some people, some municipalities
How you doing?
process the research.
Here's that phone. What's that? Couldn't figure out what this icon was on the screen. Oh, what's throwing you off?
Maybe they're mine, maybe Kyle is gonna split it. Oh, yeah, yeah.
No, I know, because I read my notes and they're.
Okay, all right, never mind, all right, all right.
We're getting a Dollar General? We're getting a Dollar General?
Maybe we'll see.
Where's it going? Really?
Across from Giant.
Oh, that'd
Well,
be
nothing
cool.
like putting your flag and your name with your rock from there. Dollar Tree right across the street.
Well, Dollar Tree's cheaper than Dollar General.
Yep.
So it's just like Walmart versus Target. Dollar General for Target. Give a bit nicer thing.
Name brand stuff in Dollar General. But if you want something cheaper, let's go over to Dollar Tree.
Thank you for the information. Let me get the website.
Hey, Ken, how come we don't have all three of the, comments?
I'm not sure I know what you mean.
Well, you know, we had public comments on the agenda.
On the very last section, where we normally have the,
General comment?
yes.
We had the critical
Comment.
comments, then we had the general comment. What happened to the other two?
They might have got bumped in the typing. What I added in?
It's on the next page.
Oh, there.
No, we don't have
Yeah, I'm turning it over and saying, well, you don't have it, where the hell is it
Oh,
then?
come on, man. Just before we change. What happened, we probably got bumped down because it didn't pay me.
There is no bump down.
Good evening, everyone. Call to order the Borough Council meeting for January 4th, 2021. Pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Grace, would you call a roll, please?
Mr. Pescavage?
Here.
Ms. Knoll?
Here.
Ms. Lloyd?
Here.
Ms. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Sykes?
Here.
Ms. Willenbacher?
Here.
Mr. Reitinger?
Here.
All present.
All present. Public comment on agenda items. Are there any public comments?
Rochelle Reed, 448 Grand Street, Middletown. I'm asking a question. The Suez joint venture,
Yes.
since we don't know what is behind that, is that about them raising the rates?
They have a presentation tonight.
Well, I wanna know when they're gonna raise the rates. Because you know how I feel about them.
January 1st.
January 1st, they raised the rates,
Mhm.
or February 1st.
January 1st.
So how much is it?
We didn't get the final report yet.
I hate to say it this way, but them bastards have been raping us since the beginning. And we need to do something about it. we got screwed. And we're still getting screwed. Now, I don't know what you can do about it. I don't know if you're in court or litigation with them.
We're not.
But this is gonna be a ghost town eventually because of this. Nobody on a fixed income can afford to live here watching those rates go up every year. The mayor wanted to raise taxes 2.9 mils. Then they come along and wanna raise our water rates. And my understanding it was 7%. So I mean, how are elderly people gonna afford to live here? I mean, it's outrageous. No, I mean that. You get it, Ellen, right?
I know what you're saying.
So I mean, think about it. Who's gonna be able to, Ian's a contractor at owning an electric company. Jim's an attorney. What do you do?
I'm retired.
Right. Jenny, you're retired. Not everybody gets a raise every year. Nobody can establish their own rates for what they want to be for, and then you got these guys raping us. It's about time we stop this. We could have went with HRG. They could have set our rates, and we wouldn't be in this mess. But we had a little boy, and the mayor championed it, to go with Suez, or at that time United Water. And you need not say you didn't, because you did. You helped with the PowerPoints, and it's noted. And you could have vetoed it, just like you did with the budget. But you didn't. And you helped them come in here. And now we're screwed.
Thank you.
Mr. President, first of all, to clear the record, Grace, please note it. I didn't help with the creation of any slideshow for the Suez.
Yes,
Desert.
you did!
No, I didn't. And
You're a liar!
you can call me that all night
You're
long,
damn
so
right, and I will.
You can do a right to know request if you wish. You can speak to Ben.
No, I'll tell you what.
You know,
I'll-
you had your 4 minutes, and now it's my turn. Chuck the finger at me again. You should just go home if you're going to be that immature. Stop it. I did not help with any slideshow.
Yes, you did.
I did not help with the
I
presentation.
got minutes that prove you did.
Let him speak for a minute.
No, I'm not.
Thank
He's
you.
lying.
I didn't help create any slideshow. I'm sure if we ever get to the point of testimony, that'll come out.
Yeah, right.
Rochelle, you are real. This is why your uncle was always disappointed in hearing you stand before
You
this
know
body
what?
speak. You're an
My
embarrassment. You're an
uncle's not
embarrassment.
disappointed in me
All
doing
right, Rochelle,
anything.
you're an embarrassment, which is why you can't win an election. It's now my turn. to
Bite
speak.
me.
I didn't help with any slideshow. There were options on the table because of mismanagement from prior borough councils who didn't raise rates when they built the new sewer plant. So we were left with a situation where we had unfunded pension liability, and we had to come up with something greater. So at the time, as I've testified before, it was the lesser of two evils. There was a supermajority of council who would override any veto because 7 of the 9 council members that were there at the time voted for it. And I take strong offense to any insinuation that I was the champion of the Suez deal. So much so that the night that they voted for it, the borough solicitor asked me to not even step into executive session, believing that I had a difference of a conflict of interest with the position of the borough, that they wanted to exclude me from the executive session, which this council knows they can't do that by law, because they thought that I was going to veto it. So please, next time you step to the podium, I know you love to run your mouth, but please have your facts in order.
Bite me.
Good luck on your next election run.
Who said I was running?
Right. You seem to always bite at the opportunity.
Any other public comments, really, on the agenda items? I do have one on my phone, and Mr. Conker, you said that is our right, because we have folks that were, because of coronavirus, they had, unable to come. Mr. Widener, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Bob, I know you wanted to make some comments regarding an issue you had, concerns about. Do you wanna state your name and address and your concerns?
My name is Robert Wagner, and I live at 111 South Wood Street in Middletown here, and my brother and I live together. And we would like to have a, permit parking established for us.
He's referencing number 7.
Is that right?
Your reference, do you wanna reference where you would like the permit parking so that the folks can hear you?
You mean the address?
Yes.
111 South Wood Street, Middletown.
Is that in our list? Yeah, thank
Any other comments, Mr. Widener?
Yes. 73 years old. And it becomes a very difficult situation if people are parking in front of our house. We have to find a place to park and walk all over the place in order to get back to where we're getting to the house. That's one of the reasons why we want this permit parking. Because we can't, at our age, handle looking all over the place for a parking spot. You got that?
I think they got that. Alright, we will, place you back on mute then.
Okay, well, you gonna let me know what happened afterwards then?
We sure will, yes.
Okay.
Alright, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for doing this, we're gonna hang out.
Alright, have a good evening. Alright, any additional public comments on agenda items? Seeing none, we'll move to agenda item number 1.
That's our meeting minutes. I'm looking for a motion to approve council meeting minutes for the December 15th and December 21st, 2020 meetings as submitted in your packet.
So moved.
Second.
Having a motion and a second, Grace, would you call a roll, please?
Mr. Kluskevich?
Yes.
Ms. Knoll?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Sykes?
Yes.
Ms. Willenbecker?
Yes.
Mr. Readinger?
Yes.
So moved.
Motion carries 7-0. Item number 2, approval of bills.
Yes, I'm asking for a motion to approve payment of bills as shown on the accounts payable list dated December 30th, 2020, which is for the period December 11th, 2020 through January 1 of 2021, and to ratify approval of such bills already paid and to authorize the appropriate officials to take required actions to make said payments.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Kluskevich,
Second.
second by Mrs. Willenbecker. Grace, would you please call a roll?
Mr. Kluskevich?
Yes.
Ms. Knoll?
I actually have a question on these. I'm wondering, do we ever figure out, Angie, about the Harrisburg on the attorney bills?
No, I haven't gotten an answer yet, but I did just send it this afternoon, so.
Do you want to address that question now, Angie?
Yeah, hang on, I can pull it up. There was a charge on the bill for,
Hang on, let me see if I can find it in my email. I'm trying to log into my email now on my computer. It says something for HPDD. Hang on. Yeah, I'm sorry.
finishing of draft policy to Richard Henry Reed HDTV camera policy. Does anyone know what that is?
Can you restate that again so Mr. Diamond can hear?
Yeah, does it have the initials of the attorney?
Yes, S-A-Y.
Okay, that's Susan Yocum.
You want me to read it to you again?
part of the labor department. I'll have to find out what that is.
Can I make a comment, cause I think I do know what it is, I don't know definitely, Des will have to answer that. But I'm thinking it is in relation to body worn cameras and in-car cameras. A new
Okay.
policy to cover, those items.
Okay.
Did you ladies hear that?
No.
Sally stated she believes that is in reference to body and in-vehicle cameras for the police department.
And I would,
Okay, that,
I would also add that the invoice from the solicitor you're referencing is not in this list of payables for tonight. So we could look at that, your questions between now and the next meeting and get those answered.
Oh, okay, that would be great.
okay, so yes, and great.
Okay, Ms. Lloyd,
Yes.
Ms. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Sykes,
Yes.
Ms. Willenbecker,
Yes.
Mr. Readinger,
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. Agenda item number 3, appointment of fire chiefs.
Yeah, the Middletown, Volunteer Fire Department has selected their chiefs for the 2021 to 2023 term. They've selected Chief Ken Whitebread Jr., Deputy Chief Justin Gilday, and Assistant Chief Chris Coble. In accordance with our Borough Code, it's necessary for council to ratify the appointment of fire chiefs and his assistants once approved. And then if approved, once approved, Mayor Curry will administer the oath. They are not here tonight, but we could still, if you have a motion to approve, we could get them in to take the oath.
And
at a
they
later
can do
date.
the oath at a later date.
So I'd ask if we have a motion to ratify the appointments of Ken Whitebread Jr. as chief, Justin Gilday as deputy chief, and Chris Coble as assistant chief for the Middletown Volunteer Fire Department with terms effective January 1, 2021, and expiring on December 31st, 2023.
So, second.
Moved by Ms. Miller, seconded by Mr. Kluskevich. Any questions? Seeing none, Grace, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Kluskevich,
Yes.
Ms. Knoll,
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd,
Ms. Lloyd?
Sorry, I couldn't hear her. Yes.
Ms. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Sykes,
Yes.
Ms. Willenbecker,
Yes.
Mr. Readinger,
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. Agenda item number 4, zoning Dollar General.
Yeah, we have a representative from Dollar General here tonight who will come to the stand, and council has requested someone from the developer to come back in. They had some questions regarding the zoning or the request for zoning change. Could you introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm here on behalf of GVT Realty Corporation, who is the developer proposing the Dollar General. I'm with the civil engineering firm working on this site. My name is Michael Lasitis with Stackback Engineering. I have a card here I can leave with you for your records.
Okay.
Thank you. So at this point, we're pretty early on in the process. From what I understand, there may be some questions about the appearance. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yeah.
So typically we start with a what's called a prototypical structure, which is it's a standard architectural design that goes from site to site. The current proto for 2020 is you may have seen. I'm trying to think of a local one.
Steel?
See, I'm not familiar with that one. That wasn't one that we.
Aspire has a Dollar General, although that's a Family Dollar, isn't it?
That's Dollar General, but I think you're saying this is new for 2020.
Well, I think this has been the proto for about 2 years now, but it's the vertical metal siding on 3 sides, and then the front would be a split face block facade and the metal roof, kind of a standing roof structure. It's a rectangular building. There's some things we can do to more or less spice it up that aren't preclusive to the cost of the project. Some of those things would be like a cementitious fiberboard facade on a certain side, in lieu of, say, the vertical metal siding or even the split face block. There are some things we can do to kind of help out. I'm wondering, I wish I had some better foresight here. I think it would have benefited me to bring some examples.
Yeah.
I think there will likely be time for that moving forward here, which I will do. Now, do you guys get information in between meetings? I'm kind of thinking out loud here. If I could email Al some examples of some other sites that we had done recently.
Is that the side?
That is similar. I have renderings. That is pretty similar though, I think in some cases.
Feel free to pass them around.
Sure. This is just an artist rendering of the current prototype. We have the split face block in the front and the metal roof, and vertical metal siding. Now, one of the limitations, like something that would be a little bit too expensive for the project would be something like a peaked roof that becomes, so it's a standard metal manufactured building. So there's kind of certain limitations to what we can and can't do with that type of a building. But I think there are some ways that we've been able to make them look pretty good.
I'll just say that, from a personal standpoint, what I'd be looking for is like some stucco or brick on the front of the facade, and maybe the facade is facing the cemetery as well as the neighboring property that's a residential property adjacent to. That's, my vision. I understand maybe you can't be the whole way up, but maybe halfway or what have you.
Right.
That's at least, does anyone else from council wanna make any comments on what they're envisioning?
Last week, we were down in Cambridge, Maryland, in the eastern shore, the southern part of the eastern shore, Cambridge, Maryland.
Okay.
And I happened to notice their Dollar General as well as their Walmart, and that there was something about that highway of retail where there was intention around the look of the architecture, not only connecting to everything else on the street, but sort of resonating to the historic nature of Cambridge, Maryland. And it was really well done.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you guys, would there be a desire for brick like you had mentioned? That's one of the like the cementitious fiberboard that I was talking about. That is one of the options for a fiberboard facade, would be kind of a brick type facade. Is that something you guys like around this area that you have some?
Yeah, personally, I think that would blend
brick
in with
architecture.
the residents that, as you go down the street, they're all brick from there
Right.
down.
Right. Right.
And again, just me speaking personally, I'd like to see the sign dressed up a little bit, as well as lighting, making sure that it's directed to the property versus the adjacent residential property.
Sure.
Because it is a big footprint, it will have quite a presence.
Yes.
So, the visual of it would be important.
Yep.
Yeah.
Understood.
What's that?
Typically, those signs are internally illuminated, so you don't have to worry too much about glare onto the neighboring properties from those signs themselves.
I think Mr. Curry has, I don't know, do you have a location?
I'm trying to figure that out. This particular one has the brick on, I would say, the bottom third, let's call it, and then it almost looks like a horizontal
That's by the cementous siding.
Yeah, with a different color trim and border, and then over the entranceway and over each window, there is a small, I'll call it roof. Over each window, like an awning that's made out of metal that's on the roof, and I think that's very attractive.
That
compared
sounds
to
pretty
something else.
extensive.
This
So
is-
typically these prototypes would not have windows. Those windows on that Dollar General would be faux windows then,
I'm fine.
from what you're looking at.
I mean, yeah, I would agree with the mayor, I would be fine with a, photo window. Do you want to
Yeah,
screenshot that, send that to Ken, and Ken
Yeah.
can forward it to,
You can even walk around and
yeah.
leave there in a light place. They also, I will say that the building, although rectangle, the corner is higher than the rest of the building, so it adds some dimension to it. I'm just spitballing here to see what's possible.
But personally, as far as you mentioned the roof, I'm fine with a flat roof.
This is a flat roof.
Yeah.
Right, so I think I saw what you were looking at there. As soon as you get outside of that standard rectangular shape, you're dealing with a lot more of an architectural change. As far as cost of the design.
Sure.
And construction go. But I think in the realm of keeping the building shape approximately the same, there's a possibility for some.
This is in Maryland,
Okay.
and it is,
The form of glass in the corner.
and there's a.
Gotcha, so that's a corner. Alright, and that's also a corner entry in this case, the way the parking's laid out.
This is a straight entry, but it's a similar situation with a flat roof. Brick, they have the faux windows with the little metal overhang. Overhang at the main door, flat roof. They have the vertical on the side, brick facade. Main
Ladies
Street.
and Ian, since you probably can't see, Jim Curry is showing a picture of a property in Maryland, Willards, Maryland, too, that's the gentleman from, the architect firm.
Those are the same faux windows you mentioned, sir?
Yeah, it looks like it. They would be.
Yeah.
Breaks it up.
Yeah, they would be, faux windows with basically black construction paper behind them, and then building them all.
And then it has that little metal awning.
None of the ones we have done have had that in the past, from what I can recall.
It takes the boxiness away.
It does, majorly. They have a light above each window and a little metal awning that comes out from each one.
Yeah,
You like that?
I like that design. I know another thing I questioned was, is it possible to move some of the parking in the front to the rear? Dress that up in the front with, trees? And then additionally, what are your thoughts on, traffic counts? I know we had some concerns with, traffic flow, because there's always been some issues right there, just west of that at the Giant entrance with regards to, traffic.
Well, we actually have them looking at that right now. We have our traffic engineer is taking video of that intersection.
Okay.
Try and get a feel for the traffic flows. We had spoken to PennDOT a little bit, and they had some preliminary concerns just with our proximity to that left turn lane into the Giant Center. There was some concern about us possibly being a little close to the queuing for the left turns into that Giant Center. So we're getting a camera on that just to compare our driveway location to where those cars commonly back up at, to make sure there's no conflicts on that.
Yeah, I'd have to say that would be a concern of mine. I have a personal bad experience with a layout like this where there's a left turn and oncoming traffic that wants to turn left into your facility is met with somebody in the left turn lane who stops and waves somebody in front of them, and then the oncoming traffic in the right lane tag them, T-bone, which is the situation out there.
Yeah, that is true.
Over in Hummelstown there,
That is true.
Yeah.
Sir, the first picture that I showed where it was a corner entry
Yeah,
with the faux windows and the overhangs is Berlin, Maryland.
okay.
And the way that you have this, positioned on your rendering, 140 feet in length, 75 feet in width, is the main entrance on the front facing Main Street in this area?
Correct, so what's desired here is to have, somebody had mentioned, possibly shifting some parking to the back. I think we have some grading challenges, in the back that likely will not allow for that to happen. So you probably know this site's on a bit of an incline. So where our access drive is, since we can't come up too steep from the front at the state road, we're gonna have a bit of a slope in the back of the building there that we need to make up some grade. So I don't know if parking will be an option in the back, but the desired layout is that entrance center in the front of the building, and the majority of the parking would be around the entrance itself, and then some parking obviously needs to flow out to the side, just 'cause we can't fit all those space right around the entrance. We have a designated stormwater area as well, you can probably see in your exhibit. So we can't fit too much extra parking in there. I believe there's going to be a forthcoming variance request for a reduction in the parking requirements for this as well.
What does that mean?
So at some point, we're going to have to request, say the zoning ordinance requires 54 spaces, we might be requesting a reduction to 40 spaces or something like that. There's some extensive history with these Dollar Generals, and we have a pretty good idea of how much parking is required per square footage of a Dollar General. And just due to the nature of quick in, quick out, get what you need to go, they find themselves not needing any more than typically 30 to 35 spaces. So that's the range we try to shoot for, just so we're not, paving extra area for no real reason that'll never be used.
I know we're just spitballing.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I know we're just spitballing ideas that you can maybe talk to your people and come back, but I think I have to echo Scott's point about the 140-foot length facing a residential area. That would simply be, unless we were going to do something like the faux windows with the overhangs and the lights, that's 140 feet of just solid wall facing.
their property.
Yeah.
So like you said, the faux windows and some nice decorative lighting there dress that up pretty nicely for the resident.
Somehow break it up.
Yeah.
Is it possible to put the entrance on the long side and have the faux window face Main Street?
I don't think that's desired by the end user who is Dollar General. So the way this works out, I work for a developer who is kind of a third party in the process and will rent or sell this to the end user being Dollar General. So they have some conversation. I mean, I can certainly bring that up, but typically they have a conversation with Dollar General early on in the process, and Dollar General is often very specific about where they want the face of the building, and visibility to them from East Main Street is going to be very important.
Sure.
So they're going to want the front of the building approximately exactly where it is or closer to Main Street.
What about a corner entry? Still faces Main Street and faces the residence.
I would have to ask them. I couldn't
Yeah,
tell
that's
you.
just my personal thing. I don't know if anybody else is echoing that.
I would agree with that. I mean, maybe we could get away with the front if you eliminated that first row of parking there, put some trees along there, dress that up pretty nicely, and then put the windows, like you're saying, on the side there. You know, that kind of achieves everything, less parking that they're looking at. Eliminating that parking, making it
Well, so
more-
we don't, to clarify, we don't want to eliminate parking from what's shown. I believe what's shown is what we need. What is required by the zoning ordinance, I believe, is greater than what we have currently shown on the plan. So I don't think we can eliminate any of the spaces shown. There may be a possibility to shift some of those spaces. I also think there would be some concerns from the Dollar General about putting trees in the front. Just because at a certain point that will end up precluding visibility to the store frontage. If those trees start growing and getting thick, motorists won't be able to see what's there. Shrubs would be an option, a small landscape shrub, some sort, we could maybe do, just outside of those parking spaces, just as a line. But I don't think trees would be a desired option there. You had also mentioned previously, possibly improving or enhancing the facade facing the cemetery. I don't know if I see a great purpose to doing that, seeing as it's pretty unlikely that a cemetery ever gets developed. We also have a significant amount of space over there that we could probably just screen that side with vegetation and or a fence. I don't think will bother anybody too bad. On that side, I think there are possibilities of enhancing the front and the side facing that residence. And obviously I'll have to go back and talk through, the change to a corner entry and the faux windows are a pretty big change, from the standard proto, so that's something that would have to be discussed. At a certain point, I would imagine, the gentleman you guys had met previously, Bob Gage, will need to, come back with me at some point, and we'll have to hatch out with the help of hopefully some examples.
Which
rendering.
I guess if you wanna get that, you have your example. If you wanna try to find that.
Okay.
I would think the outside entry probably has some effect on what happens inside with the layout, cash registers and all that.
Yeah,
Might
Yeah,
have to do with
but the switch to a proto would change, yes, the switch in the proto would change the internal layout a little bit as well.
You know, maybe if you wanna take a look at a building, the CVS up here is kinda laid out the way I think maybe Jim is talking about, with the entrance is right on the side of the building. And I mean, it has a nice flow, I think, but.
They probably have their calendars and everything
Right.
pre-made for this, for configuration.
Well, if the entrance is not, this is just me speaking, but if, we certainly wanna welcome a new business to town, and obviously there are things that the council is gonna have to approve in order to make it happen. But I am worried about aesthetics, especially when you're tucked right in a long-standing residential area there, and I think that the image of what we see in, a neighboring town versus what we just showed from Maryland is night and day, and I think that we should be on the upper scale.
Right. Do we have any comments from, Angela, Dawn, or Ian?
No, I'm good, thank you. No.
Does anyone else feel that way, so this gentleman has some direction?
I mean, I agree with.
Yeah,
everything.
I agree. Are we leaving it that, we would look at some images together, or we would wait until another meeting time?
I think at this point, there's gonna need to be some discussion as to what's possible here. Obviously, there's, a couple factors to these changes, one of them being feasibility, both constructability wise and financially for the developer. There comes a certain point in any project where it just, with facade upgrades and architectural upgrades and design upgrades, it just becomes too expensive to construct, to develop. There's no profit to be gained.
From a Dollar General, you're
From
telling
the
us
developers,
there's no.
from the developer's standpoint.
Sure.
And then the way it works between them and Dollar General to me is not 100% clear. From what I understand, there's kind of an amount worked out already. So based on their expectation, which is our generally the prototypical, they may have anticipated some general upgrades here.
Well, I'm sorry landed on a figure so early in the process.
Right,
Cause
well,
we still have to keep talking about it, right?
Right.
Yeah,
What is your timeline, so we can, you know,
yeah.
come up with some ideas and get back to you?
As far as this conversation, this process goes, I mean, I expect to go back this week and hopefully get you guys, some examples after some conversations.
And are you looking to come back in our meeting in the end of January and?
I think
further
that would
discussion?
probably be ideal. The general timeline for these is to get it done yesterday, so, yeah, I think the next meeting would be the ideal timeframe.
Jim, what's our time frame if council decides, yes, we're gonna rezone?
Well, we have to run through the two planning commissions, so, you know, probably looking at 8 weeks, probably fast as possible, because we have to advertise, you know, all that kind of stuff. Depending on the planning commission meeting dates and everything, they need 30 days. Then we can do a hearing / you know, adoption on one night after it's advertised. But
Late April.
yeah, we were talking a good 8 weeks, and then you mentioned a variance. So
Right.
that's going before, you know, that's something that's not in the control of council. So variance goes to the zoning hearing board separately, and you'd have to actually prove a basis, an undue hardship, not the fault of the developer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know, what you're saying kind of adds up to, you know, I would think if it were conditioned, now you have to be careful as a borough, you would wanna protect if there were a variance granted that is specific to Dollar General, so that it doesn't ride along, if Dollar General flips it 2 years from now, and suddenly now it's a high demand, that, you know, it'd have to be tied to, it's the same kind of business as Dollar General, you know, cause you gotta be careful when you don't oppose a variance like that, and that initial end user all makes sense, and all of a sudden, that's out now there's a pharmacy in there, and it's, you know, cars out in the middle of the street kind of thing. So it could be handled, and we could be supporting a variance, and, you know, it's, the zoning hearing board's an independent body, so they make a determination, but I would think we just have to have some position as the borough that it's, if the, you know, it might be officially the same kind of use as a retail store, but that there's some limitation, you know, this is being done because of the history Dollar General can show. They know how, you know, these things turn over. It's kind of a unique subclass, so, but that adds
So you're saying
another.
the risk is that the council could approve the rezone?
Yeah,
And
now you could
then-
run them simultaneously,
Oh,
and
you
they
can
could,
simultaneously.
I don't know if they'd wanna put the money into running two things simultaneously. They're all, when you're a developer, they're all more variables, moving parts, you know, how deep do you wanna get on one side, and then can't bring it home on the other side. But we'd have to look at that, and I think we appreciate that, given the, you know, close margins Dollar General would run at, and the developer has to stay within those margins, that, you know, they're not gonna uniquely, you know, bring an architect in to design something from scratch, so it really is, the things in Maryland, or is there another cookie cutter one that does or does not fit in dollar wise here? And if, you know, you can explore that, I think that would help.
Sure.
Cause we do see these prototypes, but it might be some developer actually already had something in the works that, you know, maybe it wasn't same economics, but.
Right, we've done a few, I think we can provide some examples, at least, if anything, that we could, you know, take the nose off that one, take the ears off that one, so to speak. Just to provide some sort of a visual, better than the renderings I have at this point. But I think that timeline sounds good. Does anyone have any issues? You never know. But I think if the developer would choose to pursue concurrent, I guess, land development planning and or zoning, is there any issues from that from a borough standpoint? I mean, obviously there's a risk to the developer that the rezone doesn't go through for whatever reason.
Yeah, and I do think though there is a legitimate concern about the traffic.
Sure,
And-
understood.
And it's sort of different, obviously PennDOT's got its warrants and a very narrow focus.
Right.
Like they're looking at that turn lane, they're looking at certain parameters, but Borough Council has to look at kind of a bigger picture of, you know, the neighborhood and those kinds of things. And, you know, because it's a rezoning, it's a different set of rules than if it were regular, you know, land development where, you know, unless we had a, you know, an ordinance provision for dealing with, you know, the transportation impacts.
Sure.
You know, we wouldn't be able to look at certain things, but here, it really is a discretionary kind of favor by Borough Council to change the law. So, you know, we do have to kind of look at a little bit bigger picture or different perspective maybe than just the PennDOT, you know, how's it line up with the queuing on that left turn? So more information on that might be helpful, I think, for council.
Yeah, that's a good
Understood.
point.
Like what kind of, since there is such a big history out there of these uses, you know, like how many cars in and out an hour, that type of thing.
Right.
Mhm.
Right, yeah, I think that's something that we can do. This one will be a little bit unique with that, with Cedar Ave, I believe, as almost a secondary access to the site. So that'll throw off the typical counts to the front possibly by a little bit, but.
There is no planned signage on Cedar Avenue, is that correct? I mean, I don't see any on.
I don't believe so. We had not talked about that previously.
I'll just state for the record, I would prefer none on Cedar Avenue.
None?
Yeah.
I just wanna reiterate that I would be anxious for you to be here and for us to welcome you to Middletown, but to the point that you just made, Cedar Avenue is showing that there's going to be, some increased traffic and a change for these residential people. And because of that fact, I don't want, me personally, a building that looks like a pole building on the main street of this town.
Sure.
Beggars can't be choosers, I know we're aching for business, that's why we want you here, I don't wanna speak for everybody, but I would hope that the council will work toward, making changes necessary to get you here, but I think that those designs that we're talking about are much needed to take into account the feelings of the residents, because they are going to be clearly affected, as you know, it's a very unique situation to have that second ingress, egress road right through a whole bunch of houses.
Sure.
So I wouldn't wanna be looking at a pole building.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, personally, I'd say, and I'd see what everyone else says, I would think the next step is, we make sure we get our design features to Ken.
I think we're gonna wait and see what the.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we gotta see what the cookie cutter versions are.
Well, but if we
first.
don't let him know what they are, what we want.
Oh, you mean pictures of like you
Yeah.
just showed?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, those, like.
We
Berlin.
get the pictures of what we would desire to Ken by Friday. Ken gets them to him, and if you could by Friday the 15th, I think it is. If you,
Mike has
alright, if Friday the 15th, you get some designs back, and we have a meeting the 19th, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
And then the 19th, we can have further discussion. Correct. I mean, does that sound good to everyone?
Mhm.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President, for recognizing. Just to echo some points as a resident, I do live a block away from there on 627 Harford Street. There are kids that play basketball in that alleyway, there are people that walk their dogs through there. And I'm not 100% sure if the daycare still behind the car wash is still in operation, but when it's nice out, they do take kids for walks out through Cedar Avenue. So, you know, I would hate to see that treated as a secondary entrance for business in a very residential area.
Mike, I do think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think you guys have an agreement with them to continue to allow entrance for the daycare, is that correct?
Correct.
I think you stated that last time.
That is correct. Yeah, we're obligated to maintain the access to the daycare through Cedar Ave.
So the daycare is still functioning.
Correct. Correct. And I believe without signage on the end of Cedar Ave, it's really not gonna draw continued traffic through there. The only people I would anticipate that would use that are the people from right up here that are gonna go that way anyway.
Right, I just didn't know if it was something that was weighing at all in your traffic study and, entrance and exit plans for the parking lot.
Well, to be honest with you, I personally am not a traffic engineer, so I don't 100% understand how that's going way into the traffic study itself. I would expect they would assume a few trips instead of using the East Main Street access. We'll end up using Cedar Lane just from local traffic.
Right.
I wonder if they could look at like speed bumps and things through there,
That's something we could do.
you know, on Cedar.
Sure, I mean, within our site extents.
Right.
Well, I guess because this is rezoning, and I know normally we're only allowed to talk about your site, but if we're actually gonna rezone, I mean, maybe part of the answer is, if you had a series of speed bumps, and the Dollar General is the kind of thing people locally use, if you find it's a pain in the ass to go on Cedar, you're not going on
Right.
Cedar.
That's a good point.
If you had a couple right off the.
That's a maintenance issue also. It's still gonna be a public
Okay.
road.
What if we did, curb cutouts similar to over here?
They're a maintenance issue as well. Yeah.
And Ms. Reed, I think you had a question?
That was.
We're Matt's cringing with our,
Yes.
suggestion that snow,
Well, all the
snow
things-
plows are wrecking and,
I mean, all the things that you're talking about should be in our zoning ordinance, and sadly, our zoning ordinance is pretty thin. So I totally understand where the developer's coming from, that, you know, they looked at our ordinances and they've designed to our ordinances, but because they're somewhat weak, you know, they're getting hit at the last minute.
Well, right now, the zoning ordinance says you cannot build this there, so it really is a different.
Correct, but as far as all of the screening and the other stuff,
Yeah, right.
that's, we don't have a really comprehensive zoning ordinance covering all of those amenity type pretty things.
Yeah.
I do know from, you know, the electric side of things, any customers are good customers at this point with the electric side.
Bring in the coolers and all that like
It's-
that stuff.
Yes.
No, my question was, is the nursery or the preschool or whatever, daycare, if it was still operational or not?
That is our understanding.
From what I understand, yes, I don't know if they have future plans to close it down or change the use, but at this point, we're intending to maintain access to it as if they're gonna continue to use it.
Okay.
I appreciate your point that you made.
I sent all the pictures.
But I understand, for the solicitor, you know, we're technically asking for a favor, so,
Does that seem fair, the timeline for you, that we get
I
our
think
pictures
so.
to him by Friday?
I think
get
so.
some-
I'm hoping to have
Yeah.
something to you before then even.
Yeah.
But if you, at any point get me, kind of your ideas and your thoughts beyond what we talked about. I think I have a decent idea at this point. And there's so many things you can change. There's plenty of combinations of things you can change, but there's only so many real options. So I think I can get you a pretty good idea of the options for this site to further this conversation along. And at that point, I think we'll have a lot better information if everyone has some time to think about it, to discuss it in greater detail at the next meeting.
Okay.
But yeah, I think the 19th is fair.
Okay. Any other comments for? All right, thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate everybody's time.
Very nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you as well. Second time I've got that.
Agenda
Have a
item
good
number
evening.
5,
Good evening.
Happy New Year.
resolution 2021 for Renthia.
Yes, each year we're required to pass a resolution for submission to PennDOT for the purpose of displaying banners over the state highway. So I'm looking for a motion to adopt resolution 2021-1 and send that to PennDOT as required by state regulations.
So Ken, the dates would be, I talked to Grace about changing the date. Ours says 6 January 2020, which is probably last year, huh?
Yours is,
I believe Grace made that.
Oh, I picked up my package earlier, maybe
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't get, pardon me.
Yeah, that's fine, correction from me.
Pardon me.
Had me confused.
Yeah, I must have here on your version.
Thank you for
Motion
pointing that
by
out.
Mr. Kluskavich, second.
Second.
Second by, Ms. Wellenbecker. Grace, please call a roll.
Mr. Kluskavich.
Yes.
Ms. Knoll.
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd.
Yes.
Ms. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Sykes.
Yes.
Ms. Willenbecker.
Yes.
Mr. Readinger.
Mr. Readinger.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Agenda item number 6, termination of the ICDA.
Okay, the ICDA submitted a request for termination. We drafted a resolution, but we're not gonna put that before you tonight, but as a precursor to any termination in the ICDA, we would first need 2 motions, so I'm gonna read this in 2 parts. The first part is going to be a motion to transfer real estate. The second motion that would be to transfer the cash from the ICDA to the borough. So, the first motion I'm looking for is a motion that in connection with the precursor to winding up the dissolution of the Middletown Borough ICDA, Industrial Commercial Development Authority, the borough would accept title to the sole remaining parcel of real estate in the name of the authority being unit number 1 of the Union Street condominium, commonly referred to as the Elks Theater Building, and designed as tax map parcel number 41-009-014, and accepting all remaining assets of the authority.
Do we have a motion for the transfer of real estate to the ICDA?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Willenbecker, second by Mr. Kluskavich. Grace, would you please call, or any questions or comments by members of the council?
I'm sorry, that motion should have said real estate and funds and assets of the authority.
Do you wanna amend your, or do you wanna rescind your second, Ms. Willenbecker?
No.
Nope. So you just want real estate?
Real estate and assets.
Well, the second
Yeah,
motion
okay.
is,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but you need a, do you wanna rescind it so he can amend what he said?
Oh, yes. Oh, I see. Yes, I do.
Let me restate it.
Well, yeah, go ahead and read, Mr. Contier,
A motion, looking for a motion that in connection with and as a precursor to the winding up and dissolution of the Middletown Borough Industrial and Commercial Development Authority, the borough accepts title to the sole remaining parcel of real estate in the name of the authority, being unit number 1 of Union Street condominium, commonly referred to as the Elks Theater Building, and designated as tax map parcel number 41-009-014, and accepting all remaining funds and assets of the authority.
do you wanna state what those funds are for the
That's
record?
gonna be the second part of the motion,
Oh.
as far as the plan that we talked about.
Well, you can say the amount.
The amount is $495,600.
Yeah, which would be less any final, bills like, for insurance, all those kinds, whatever any outstanding little bills would be, that'd be the approximate amount.
Any questions or comments from council?
Could I throw in one clarification in terms of the real estate? One little nuance here is, what I wanna do is actually, we mentioned the unit. Up until now, really the unit that's the Elks Theater has never officially been deeded out from what's called the declarant. So the borough's authorities, or the developer of that little 2-unit condominium, it's still sitting in the developer name, even though it's all the same party. What I'd like to do in conjunction with this is actually not just deed that declarant piece over, but actually issue it as a condominium deed. So then if it's transferred again by the borough, it's not the initial issuance, which has to have certain disclosures and things like that. And then I might as well mention right now, I do think that it would make sense for us to try to terminate the condominium. To do that, we would need to do a subdivision of the two buildings, but the condominium with 2 units is gonna be so burdensome for everybody for what's there. I did reach out to, Tattered Flag, they kinda think the same thing, so we'd have to look at that. That doesn't have to be done now, I'm just saying, you know, I do think down the road, not too long from now, we should look at trying to just separate those two. The utilities have been separated, there's a little strip of sidewalk in front of their building, not touching the part, it just makes no sense to have a condominium, so. Anyway, just with that clarification, it still would be transferring all the real estate interests from the authority being dissolved to the borough.
And, may I ask?
Yeah.
I think we talked about this at the ICDA meeting. There was a prior motion by the council to dissolve the ICDA, but the process by which it was started was backwards. That's why we did the ICDA.
Yeah, so for us to, and the reason we're not putting the resolution on the table yet, that part has to happen after there are no assets or bills left for the authority. So it will look like it's ready to go, but once it's not ripe yet, so we need to do this little half step first. Normally, when an authority is dissolving, at the time it says, hey, we wanna dissolve, it doesn't have anything. Here, we need to transfer the stuff, so this council has to say, yeah, we're agreeable to that, we'll accept the stuff. Then we're all ready to move with bringing back for the, an upcoming meeting, the official resolution that then gets filed with the Department of State, and that terminates the corporate existence of the authority at that point. So that's why it's a little odd here. So apparently sometime in the past, there had been a vote years ago, a couple years ago, on the authority side to terminate, it didn't go anywhere, but really, without council, it really takes both parties.
It's actually council, no.
Okay.
That's why I'm saying logistically that was wrong.
Yeah, so it does have to, in theory, the official big step after we've cleared everything is, it's initiated by the authority proposing to dissolve and council accepting it, so.
I'd just state for the record, I think we should at least keep the ICDA as a organization. I'm not saying this function is necessarily bad, moving the funds over to the borough or the building. But instead of avoiding future costs of setting one up, if somebody wished to, I would like to keep the ICDA itself. That's all I'm saying. If we did do that, how often would they have to meet by law?
Well, you would, if you're gonna have it, you're gonna have to keep it up and running and have meetings and appoint people and.
What would be the, even if somebody 10 years from now wants to reinstitute the ICDA, it's not like you're starting from scratch.
Yeah, it's not a big process to institute one.
All the bylaws and everything are done.
Yeah, they're pretty basic, so it's not a big expense to starting one.
Any other questions or comments?
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so just so that I'm clear, this is basically transferring the money that's left in the ICDA account to the borough and also transferring the ownership of the ELF to the borough. It is not at this point resolving the ICDA, as you just said. That's something that's going to be voted on later. But we could keep the actual ICDA authority and still make these moves if council so chooses.
Certainly could move the real estate. I don't see really a reason why you couldn't move the money either, actually. You probably have some,
I'm in agreement with you, Scott. I'm not so sure that I think the ICD itself should be completely dissolved. I am in agreement with moving the money. I think that, you know, the borough could use it for some projects. I'm just not sold on dissolving the ICDA completely yet.
well, you know, then I guess the other question is, do you wanna move the real estate if you're the authority?
Well, if I'm hearing this count, I think there's at least I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I think there's a good majority that wanna see the ICD at least inactive, so, while I disagree with that, I think it might be the right choice now with the desire of this council, not necessarily, unless there's others that speak up that want to continue the ICDA.
I don't wanna see it dissolved either.
I would just like to add, I am in favor of moving the money though.
Mr. President,
Yeah, go ahead.
that's one thing I think that's laughable. If we're going to, the ICDA has been dormant for a long time. The prior council made a decision that we were shutting it down. Clearly, according to the borough solicitor, it was not done logistically correct.
Sure.
Now we're trying to do it the right way. I am not in favor of taking the money from there and moving it to the borough because we didn't do our due diligence during the budget season, and now we have $500,000 that we could say, oh, we fixed stuff. That's not right. You're either shutting it down or you're not shutting it down. And if we're not shutting it down, then you just leave it as it is.
Yeah, I kinda wanna echo that. I mean, if we're going to keep the ICDA should have funds to be able to operate with, and the real estate should really sit with the ICDA, because the ICDA has more authority to dispose of it and to utilize it than the borough would. So if we're not going to dissolve the ICDA, it's kind of me doing anything, and I would vote to not move the money or the real estate and just keep it as it is. I mean, the body would need money to operate. When we transfer all the money over, what happens when we have the insurance bills? We're gonna have to transfer money back over.
I would say, as solicitor, I don't think it's a good idea to have a quote-unquote dormant entity. There shouldn't be, it's not like a committee or something, there's a real corporate body there. So you're either giving it some care and feeding, and you know, maybe you wanna rethink what you're doing here, but it shouldn't be a shelf committee looking thing. You have a real entity with, you know, real legal responsibility. You can set another one up, or you could say, you know, we wanna rethink this, but.
I mean, it was created for that downtown streetscape. And the argument that came up with the prior council at the time, I remember letters to the editor of the Press and Journal. It was too many chefs in the kitchen, spoil the broth. It was that the council at the time, controlled by who they were controlled by, had their people on it, and decisions were being made that were hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the community had no input on it whatsoever. And this body of appointed people was running the show on a multi-million-dollar project. I totally understand the purpose of them. Something like Dairy Township, okay, I can see why they have it. It is not needed here. And because it's been dormant for so long, I would just get rid of it. And if there's another project that comes up in the future and you want to reinstitute it, go ahead.
They were invited for 8 o'clock, I don't know if you want to take them out of order then.
We got people out here. Right, Rochelle?
Who owns the property?
I wanted to comment.
Oh, I'm
on
sorry.
the ICDA.
Go ahead, Ian. So,
Are we open to public comment right now?
No.
So I guess I just need to echo, and it's a shame to say this, but with the ICDA, we're either all in or nothing, either all or nothing. So if we're just gonna vote to move money in real estate and keep the ICDA, I can't support that. And unfortunately, and I hate to say this, but I'm gonna have to vote no tonight on the money
in the real estate to be transferred, because I don't believe that this council is going to do the right thing, and at the end of the day. And I don't wanna see, an organization I'm the chairman of be sitting there with no money and no real estate and have a big old question mark around it. And this is really disappointing, and I will be bringing this back up in several months when we're talking about the budget for 2022, and I'm talking about 4, 5, 6 mills, because we could really use this money now to get some stuff done, and it doesn't sound like it's gonna work out that way. So once again, I brought something to this body to help this community out, and we can't get nothing done. So I'll be voting no on this. It's a shame, but I just don't trust this council. I'll be voting no.
Any other questions? Grace, if you wanna call the roll. We have.
Wait,
We don't have a motion.
I thought we had.
She rescinded her motion.
Yes, we rescinded. There is no, actually, at this point right now, there is no motion or second on the floor.
I thought he.
Is there a way that lets the
He rescinded, I read it again, any questions came up.
Sure.
Before we had a second motion and a second, so we still need that. If I can read it again.
Yeah,
to
go
see if
ahead,
there's a
Ken.
motion.
Or Angie, I think had a question.
Okay.
well, I don't know if I got an answer to my question on whether or not that could be done that way.
Yes, it could be done. I don't think, again, I would counsel against though having a dormant entity, and viewing it that way, I think there would be something in it, some purpose and some care and feeding to it, or it ought to be dissolved. And then if there's a need for it in the future, create a new one, but, it gets very peculiar if a municipality has non-functioning legal entities out there. And then sometimes they get forgotten about for years, and I've been around where, big issues about,
Plus
what
you
is
have-
this thing? and-
Plus you have a condominium agreement with.
Yeah, so,
RCA.
we got a lot of moving parts with the, condo sitting there, and,
Since he's saying he's gonna recommend withdraw, it doesn't make sense just to shut this down. If this money is proposed for all these projects, and if in 10 years.
Yeah, the police, the fire, there goes the fire fund. I just, in a couple months, when I'm talking 4, 5, 6 mil increase, I don't wanna hear it from people. Because I've tried countless times with this body to bring really creative ideas, to raise taxes and to do tax holidays, and to find money, with other organizations that we're not using. You can't make this up. You honestly cannot make this up.
Yeah, we didn't even take a vote on this, so I don't know why you keep saying council. I haven't said a word to it, Ellen hasn't said a word, Cliff hasn't said a word. I don't understand we don't even know what the vote is yet.
Should I read the motion again?
I've been around this council long enough.
Mr. Clancy, read the motion.
Okay, I'm looking to see if there's a motion that in connection with and as a precursor to winding up and dissolution of the Middletown Borough Industrial and Commercial Development Authority, the borough accepts title to the sole remaining parcel of real estate in the name of the authority being unit number 1 of the Union Street condominium, commonly referred to as the Elks Theater Building, and designated as tax parcel number 41009-014, and accepting all remaining funds and assets currently in the amount of $495,600 from the authority.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Willenbecker.
Second.
Second by Mr. Kluskevich. Any additional questions, comments? Grace, please call the roll.
Mr. Kluskevich.
Yes.
Ms. Knoll.
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd.
Oh,
Yes,
Ms. Miller.
No.
Mr. Sykes.
Yes.
Ms. Willenbecker.
Yes.
Mr. Reddinger.
I'm thinking.
You have 4 minutes.
I'm gonna vote yes, but I hope that the rest of the body does the right thing and finishes this out. And doesn't leave the ICD hanging broke.
Motion carries 6-1.
No, he said, who said no?
I think he said.
I said yes.
Yeah.
Under protest.
6-1.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, in conjunction with that, the second, motion is, I'm looking for a motion that the monies that were expected to be received from the Middletown ICDA in connection with its liquidation and termination of its corporate form be allocated for the uses in 2021 set forth in the funding plan list circulated to council, copy of which is attached to the minutes and also included in your packet tonight, with the specific amounts being adjusted on a prorated basis among such uses as to the extent that the net amount received after all payment of final bills of the authority is less than the current authority fund balance of approximately $495,600. This is a motion for the spending plan.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Wellenbecker, second by Mr. Kuzkevich. Any questions or comments?
I just echo Ian's point, now that this is being eliminated with the property and the money. This is not a piggy bank to save the, unwillingness to address the budget. It's not a penny from heaven.
Any other questions or comments?
I am really excited. I know we had a very stressful budget year, and I'm really happy that we can take advantage of these funds and get some very much needed infrastructure done and get the police and fire department set up with some stuff. It did work out. We had a very rough year. We all have our opinions on it, but I'm glad that we have this opportunity. That's all I have to say.
Grace, please call the roll.
Mr. Kuzkevich?
Yes.
Ms. Knoll?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
No.
Mr. Sykes?
Yes.
Ms. Willenbecker?
Yes.
Mr. Rettinger?
Yes.
6-1. Agenda item number 7, ordinance 2020-1371, permit parking.
Yes, I'm looking for a motion to advertise ordinance 2020-13, which would establish on-street parking regulations for Wood Street and Wilson Street neighborhood.
So moved.
Second. Oh,
Moved by Mr. Kuzkevich, second by Ms. Willenbecker. Questions or comments?
I see that 111 South Wood Street is included on here.
They are included, yes. I will state that I know Mr. Clancy and I talked, and I think initially we thought that there was gonna be the ability to speak on the act, but because of the government opening up the services on January 4th, we took away that capability. I know that there was 3 additional people living over there that wanted to they were expecting, and they may even be signed in for live stream, but they were expecting to comment, and unfortunately they could not, but like I said, 3 additional houses in that neighborhood were commenting in favor of it. Yeah, any other questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Kuzkevich?
Yes.
Ms. Knoll?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd? Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Sykes?
Yes.
Ms. Willenbecker?
yes.
Mr. Rettinger?
No.
Motion carries 6-1. Agenda item number 8, Woodland Hills letter of credit.
Yes, we have in your packet 3 letters of credit, some reports from HRG. They reviewed those requests for phase 1, 2, and 3 to reduce the letter of credit by $38,220. So we're looking for a motion to authorize the reduction of Woodland Hills phase 1 letter of credit D007437 in the amount of $38,220, which leaves a balance of $228,120.66.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Wolfbeck, second by Ms. Miller. Any questions or comments? Grace, please call the roll.
Mr. Kliskevich?
Yes.
Ms. Knoll?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Sykes?
Yes.
Ms. Willenbecker?
Yes.
Mr. Readinger?
Yes.
7-0.
7-0.
Second part, you're gonna get a motion for each phase, okay? So for phase two, I'm looking for a motion to authorize the reduction of Woodland Hills Phase Two letter of credit, number D007482, in the amount of $164,394, leaving a balance of $246,375.89.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Kliskevich, second by Ms. Willenbeck. Any questions? Grace, please.
Mr. Kliskevich?
Yes.
Ms. Knoll?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Sykes?
Yes.
Ms. Willenbecker?
Yes.
Mr. Readinger?
Yes.
7-0.
Carries 7-0.
And now phase three. I'm looking for a motion to authorize a reduction in Woodland Hills Phase Three letter of credit, number D007640, by $74,200, which leaves a balance of $283,432.20.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Willenbecker, second by Ms. Miller. Any questions? Grace, please call the roll.
Mr. Kliskevich?
Yes.
Ms. Knoll?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Sykes?
Yes.
Ms. Willenbecker?
Yes.
Mr. Readinger?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. I'll take 1 minute to comment that we have guests from Suez in our Zoom session right now. They were intended to join us at 8 o'clock, and they are on Zoom right now. But I figured with what appears to be relatively quick items that we can move through, I would recommend that we move through those to
Okay.
continue on.
Okay.
Is council in agreement?
Yes.
Agenda item number 9, Middletown Youth Club.
Yes, I'm looking for a motion to accept and authorize the borough manager to sign the operation and maintenance agreement as provided by the Middletown Youth Club for the property located at 312 Grant Street.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Willenbecker, second by Ms. Miller. Any questions? Grace, please call the roll.
Mr. Kliskevich?
Yes.
Ms. Knoll?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Sykes?
Yes.
Ms. Willenbecker?
Yes.
Mr. Readinger?
Yes.
7-0. Number 10, Planning Commission resignation.
Yes, we had a resignation. I'm looking for a motion to accept Jeff Tom's resignation from the Planning Commission.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Kliskevich, second by Ms. Willenbecker. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Number 11, appointment to the vacancy board.
Yes, Ken Whitebread Senior submitted a letter of interest indicating he's interested in serving on the vacancy board. I'm asking for a motion to appoint Ken Whitebread Senior to the vacancy board for a term effective January 1, 2021, expiring on December 31, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Kliskevich, second by Ms. Miller. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Number 12, appointment to ICDA.
Yes, Mayor Curry's term on the ICDA will expire January 4th, which is today. He's interested in continuing to serve on the board. I'm looking for a motion to appoint James Curry III to serve on the ICDA with a term effective January 1, 2021, and to expire December 31, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Kuzkovich, second by Ms. Willenbecker. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Number 13, appointment to the zoning hearing board.
Okay, hearing board has a position that ended on December 31st, 2020. Jack Still has indicated he's interested in serving on the board, continue to serve. Looking for a motion to adopt resolution number 2021-2, appointing Jack Still to the zoning hearing board for a term to expire December 31st, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Willenbecker, second by Ms. Miller. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Carries 7-0. Number 14, appointment to historic restoration.
Yes, Joanna Kane's term on the Historical Restoration Commission expired at the end of the year. She's interested in continuing to serve. Looking for a motion to appoint Joanna Kane to the Historical Restoration Commission with a term of January 1, 2021 to December 31st, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Willenbecker, second by Ms. Miller. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Carries 7-0. Number 15, appointment to the library board.
Yes, Rhonda Salomon and Jerry Blanche have both indicated they would like to continue to serve on the library board. So I'm asking for a motion to appoint Rhonda Salomon and Jerry Blanche to the library board with terms to expire on December 31st, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Kuzkovich, second by Ms. Willenbecker. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 7-0. Number 16, appointment to the Police Pension Investment Advisory Board.
Yes, police pension board will need to have someone appointed to replace Bob Reed, who's no longer on council. The Investment Advisory Board, had appointed previously Bob Reed and Jeff Weaver, of the police department. Council can now select someone to replace Bob Reed, and the police association would need to select someone to replace Jeff Weaver. Angie Lloyd has indicated that she would be interested in serving on the police pension board and investment advisory board. I'm seeking a motion to appoint Angela Lloyd to the police pension board and investment advisory board to replace Bob Reed.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Willenbecker. Do we have a second? Oh, don't. Second by Ms. Knoll. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Carries 6-1. Number 17, appointment Human Relations Commission.
Yes, since this one on the agenda that received communication and learned that the mayor has, these are seats that were appointed by the mayor, these two positions that are currently in need of replacement. He's not ready at this time to make a recommendation for reappointment.
So no action?
No action.
I do have one, Mayor. There was a vacant seat previously that was open before these two seats became open. And the Human Relations Commission should have acted on confirming whether or not they were in favor of the appointment.
This point I haven't, staff has not received a email or recommendation yet as to who they are going to select for that position.
Was there a meeting in December from the Human Relations Commission?
Yes.
Did you discuss the vacant seat and the person that had put in for it as of December 1st?
Mike Whitworth, made it known, and, we all got emails, and supposedly you got one.
I'm well aware of Mike's interest. that he sent on December first. You had a meeting after December first. I'm asking if the people that were appointed to the Human Relations Commission.
We had no problem with it.
Okay, then I think we should make a motion to appoint Mike Woodward.
We didn't actually take a vote on it though, because at that meeting, we were with Jim Diamond trying to figure out
That is
how
true.
the selection went because of the way the ordinance was written. So we didn't actually vote on it.
You
Which
are
we're
right.
planning on doing next week, but since Rochelle and I haven't been reappointed, it'll come down to Aaron and Megan.
That's right, you are right.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
But they wouldn't have a quorum, would they?
That's right, we wouldn't.
Okay, then I guess due to the inaction, I'll have to deal with it.
Oh, it's up to us. It's up to the four of us.
No, it's up to the two, because you're no longer on right now.
That's right.
Can't you appoint him? If you can make
So
a
there would
quorum?
be no quorum though.
Right.
If you wanna, I mean, if you can appoint, can we appoint him?
You could, yeah, you can.
So then you got a quorum. And then you just gotta appoint one more later, and then we have to appoint one.
I would be honored to serve.
So you would have to appoint him,
Okay,
right?
go ahead.
No, the council would.
Wait, I thought, who has to appoint?
So,
I can appoint whoever I want.
yeah, he has two.
He has two spots
Two
to
spots.
recommend.
And now we don't have a quorum because they didn't act at the
Right,
meeting
so
in
we
December,
need-
so by
we
appointing
need
Mike,
you-
it gives them the quorum.
Right, we need you to
Well, we
appoint
would
one.
have a quorum if you would appoint Rochelle and I, which is the right thing to do.
Or you could have voted on the person that put in the interest before your last meeting. I'm gonna recommend that Mike Woodward
Well,
take one of the
this is all
vacancies.
about whether or not you're worried, whether or not we're gonna appoint Mike. As
You
I
have my-
said, we're gonna
you
vote
have
on
my,
it next week, and we wanted to talk to him.
Borough solicitor was
I'm
at the
not gonna
meeting.
have a chance to, but that's fine.
Counselor,
Don't let it go personal, Jim.
Counselor Lloyd, I'm present if you would like to have any questions presented to me at this time. Other than that, I can only wholeheartedly express my heartfelt desire to continue to serve the community as I once did.
So,
So
but
Jim just made a.
Jim is recommending, since he can't make a motion or a second, Jim is recommending the appointment of Mr. Woodward to, the Human Relations Commission.
Yes.
And that has to be
Approved by council.
approved by us. So is there a motion and a second to approve Mr. Curry's recommendation to appoint Mr. Woodward to Human Relations Commission?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Kluskevich, second by Ms. Willenbecker. Any questions?
I have a question. Who has to appoint the other two though?
My understanding would be Jim one and council one.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, the HRC,
HRC.
I'm sorry.
Right, so I appointed Megan Giles,
Yeah,
Mike Woodward,
yeah.
I'll
and then you
appoint
got
the
one
third,
more.
and then those three pick the remaining ones.
Yeah.
And, well, you'd have to approve it.
Yeah, yeah. Did you hear that?
Yeah, thank you.
We will call a roll on this one, please.
Mr. Kluskevich?
Yes.
Ms. Knoll?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Sykes?
Yes.
Ms. Willenbecker?
Yes.
Mr. Readinger?
No.
Carries 6-1 to the appointment of Mr. Woodward to the HRC.
Thank you, counsel.
Thank you for stepping up. Thank you, Mr. Still, for stepping up. And as always, and out in the test this, we need more volunteers. The planning commission is currently sitting at 3 members, one of which is myself, with 2 vacancies. So if anyone knows anyone, certainly pass the word on that we need volunteers. Number 18, tax collector.
Yes, our tax collector has requested an increase in our annual salary from $8,000 annually to $13,000 annually for the position of tax collector. If council is in agreement, then we would request a motion to increase the annual salary for the borough tax collector position to $13,000 annually, effective January 1, 2021.
So moved.
Now, we should clarify, though, if Ken found an old ordinance, we would have to end up doing an ordinance, advertise ordinance, to confirm that. Because, you know, it's to modify an ordinance, which would be.
Yeah, that's my fault. My
Didn't
mistake.
end up in the codified book for some reason, but it's.
It wasn't in the codified book, but we found the old ordinance from 2001. The salary of $8,000 was set by ordinance, so in order to give the raise, we would have to agree tonight not to increase the salary, but to advertise an ordinance.
Right.
Or I guess direct the solicitor to draft an ordinance for advertisement. Now the thing is, if we're going to do this, this ordinance would have to be approved before February 15th. So we would have to agree to direct the solicitor to put it together and get it out advertisement probably at this meeting.
Right.
Because I think it has to be out there for 3 weeks
Yeah, we'll have to do it right away.
before we can approve it, and then we probably can approve it at the beginning of the February meeting.
Sally, I don't know if you wanted to make any comments on what you learned with, the occupational tax and so forth. Sally has had communications with Janice Creason of Dauphin County, who is the county tax collector.
And treasurer of the county.
And treasurer. After a conversation with Janice, she explained that, our, tax collector is not bound, by any law to actually collect per capita or occupational tax. But we can appoint her to do that, which we have, in the past. The other recommendation, was that because a tax collector at any time can decide that they don't want to collect per capita in occupation for the borough, they can just stop doing it. So one of the recommendations that I gave to Ken was of that $13,000 salary, in the ordinance, modified ordinance, we should actually designate the portions of salary for real estate tax collection and per capita and occupational tax collection. So that way, if she decides not to collect per capita or occupation, that portion of the salary would actually go away. If we don't do that, we cannot make any adjustments to her salary.
I have a quick question. I'm sorry, I didn't hear it. If we wouldn't use Pam to collect our occupational tax, who would we use?
Well, we could use someone like Keystone. Right now, it's a very convoluted process how they're actually collected, because we pay Burke One to actually print and send the per capita occupational tax bills. Pam collects them, then any delinquent goes to Keystone. So we could technically have Keystone print the bills, send them out, and track them along with the delinquents, but we're gonna have to pay money for that whole process. So if we're gonna
Do you know how much that money would cost?
I don't. I'm gonna say it's probably, between, I don't really have a good cost. My gut is it's gonna be $5,000 to $8,000. Additional, yeah, so if we're going, that's the other reason why we would wanna designate a portion of Pam's salary, related to per capita and occupation, because if she decides she doesn't wanna do that, we would want those funds to pay an outside source.
So with that said is I would vote to take this with $5,000 raise and make that all towards the occupational tax. I would allocate that to the occupational tax. And then if she stops, for whatever reason, she loses that $5,000, and we have that $5,000 to at least move over to Keystone.
Yeah.
Do we have to break it out for occupational and per capita?
No, they go together.
They go together.
They're billed together.
So if council's in favor of having the solicitor draft an ordinance and get it advertised.
Which would be 8,000 and then 5,000.
5 for the occupational and per capita.
Right.
what I would roll with. That's just my opinion. I don't know what everybody else's opinion is.
Yeah, I don't think you'd wanna take any salary that she currently has away from her.
Right, right.
No, I would just keep it clean. And if we would have to potentially owe Keystone 5 to 8, well, we at least have 5,000 of it, and we have to come up with dinner, so be
Yeah,
it.
and that's a very loosey-goosey estimate. I don't know.
Yeah.
Motion on it?
Can we make a motion?
Yeah, I think we ought to do a motion to direct me to prepare it, that way we at least know we have majority, because there's no
I
point
mean,
going
other
down
than
the road.
prepare, but to get it advertised too, because it has to be advertised for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And maybe as soon as you have it prepared, we could share it with council by email, but I'd like to get it, and we're not gonna have another meeting for 2 weeks, and then after that, it's 2 weeks till we vote again, so.
You got everything written down? Do we have a motion for?
To direct the solicitor to prepare and advertise.
Do you wanna,
A
do you wanna
revision
read
to
your
our-
statement so that, Mr. Kluskevich can,
No, I think that's exactly it, to prepare and advertise an ordinance to increase the tax collector's compensation by $5,000, allocated specifically to the per capita and occupational taxes.
Mm-hmm. So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Moved by Ms. Wilbecker, second by Mr. Kluskevich. Grace, please call a roll. Or any questions, I'm sorry.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Ms.
Does this mean she's gonna be there a couple more hours? I mean, she's only there, what, 1 day a week?
Do you know if she needed
She already collects all that now.
Yeah, she
That's-
collects all of it now.
That's true. She already collects that now, so there would be no additional.
She's just looking for a raise.
I think the issue was that for 20 years, she was getting paid $8,000, and she hasn't had a raise.
Yeah.
And I will say, I do, you know, and I think Ken even researched it for me, that she was underpaid. Okay. Any additional questions? Grace, if you could call a roll, please.
Mr. Kluskevich?
Yes.
Ms. Knoll?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Sykes?
Yes.
Ms. Willenbecker?
Yes.
Mr. Rettinger?
Yes.
Carries 7-0. Number 19 is Suez Joint Venture, who we have on Zoom call behind us. And I believe Grace will initiate the function to invite them in. Hello, do we have the folks from Suez? Is Mr. Joyner available?
Yes, John Joyner's here.
Can everyone from Suez Joint Venture hear us?
I believe we're all here.
Okay, okay. So the audience knows, Suez had asked us to, you know, have a discussion with them, and, you know, this is that time where council's gonna converse with Suez regarding some topics that we all have of concern. Ken, I know you printed out some items for us. Do you wanna open it up for discussion?
Yeah, I would say that, the joint venture has put together a proposed amendment to our lease agreement. We're referring to as proposed amendment number 6, which would have a change in how they collect revenue for capital improvement projects. Currently, the 5-year CapEx plan contains in the agreement, an obligation to replace 2,500 linear feet of water line on an annual basis. And there is some catch-up work being done for that 2,500 feet for the several years that we were in dispute and arbitration. So, I'm getting some feedback.
That's you. That
No,
was,
okay. So, we have a document that the joint venture Water Capital Partners has given us called Middletown Moving Forward Together. And I know, Mr. Joyner would like to, highlight that and, maybe go over that for us and tell us, what this proposal entails.
Mr. Joyner, did you hear that, and are you, able to go forth with discussing, the proposal?
I am, however, someone, there needs to allow me to share screen. There should be a button along the bottom there, Grace. Thank you.
The one that's.
The green one. You should be good.
Okay. Can you now see the screen?
Not yet, it might be a delay.
You can see it's desktop.
Is that our desktop? You want it like that?
Jen, Ken?
Yeah, that's fine.
That's good.
Do you see it now?
You might get a free dots where he's at, Grace?
I think you should stop the share of ours.
The red one. Oh, new share.
Down, there's a red button underneath that.
Bring your cursor
mouse
down.
down.
There, see
Stop
that?
share.
Right, but it says a new share.
It says you are screen sharing right now. There you go. Now, he has to share his. I think he has to grant access to the share.
There it was at the bottom.
Yeah. So you're not seeing it.
No,
Click that here.
the share screen takes me back where it was.
No, what about more?
Do you see the share screen green one? There's a little white arrow beside it. For more, what's that?
If I click that, is what I had before. That's exactly what I clicked.
Okay.
Can you see now?
No, we're just seeing you.
Hey, Mark Filler, just
Yeah, Mark.
Yes.
I did click share screen and it shows my screen like this.
Yeah, John, can you hear me? This is Jim Curry.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
you
sure.
have, I think at the bottom of your screen, you have to click share screen. It should be like a green button.
Yeah. Did, but I will do it again. Host disabled participants, screen share.
I don't know which one he is because I have a Dan.
Admit all up at the top, upper right.
He's, John.
He's
Yep.
John Joyner.
More.
I'm making the host, would that allow him to share his screen?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's how it works with my wife's classes.
Let him be the host.
Yeah.
There it is.
Okay, now you should click share screen.
Now, John, try clicking share now, see what you get. 'Cause you're the host.
Okay. Just a second here. I'm gonna, exit and then rejoin, okay? Just give me 1 second here.
Okay.
Or maybe this will work here.
There he goes.
I think we got it now.
What do you say it?
Okay. I think this might not be the final version, Dan. You fixed the typos, but we'll make this work. Don, did you have any, anything you wanted to kick this off with? Okay, I'm not sure you can hear me. Well, we appreciate, finally having the opportunity to communicate with you all. And, look at this first slide. It's, you know, this has been around for quite a while, as we prepared this, I think, back in May. But I hope that we all appreciate that we have not skipped a beat during this pandemic, providing water and wastewater services. The service shutoff and the suspension of late payments also continues to be part of our program. And we hope that not having to worry about the water and wastewater system and any negative impact on the budget has been some comfort to the municipality. Turning to the next slide. You know, given some of the hostility directed towards us, we thought that it might make sense for us to hire a consultant to perform a survey to measure the public's perception of the concession agreement. And that survey revealed that overall the consensus was positive, despite the residents not actually being very well informed. I don't think that was anybody's fault, but they just really didn't have the facts about the concession agreement. So the consultants determined that a sample of about 155 residents would be professional, in their professional opinion, appropriate to do this survey, and 55% of those had an overall positive review of Suez and their service. 29% of those satisfied cited water rates, no surprise, as the reason for their dissatisfaction. 63% were unaware that the concessionaire had invested $43 million to fix the municipal budget back in 2015, and that we continue to pay an annual fee, which is approximately 10% of the municipal budget. 50% were unaware of the poor conditions of the water infrastructure. Even 4% believe safe, reliable drinking water is more important, and about 89% of the dissatisfied customers reported going on and making the infrastructure investments. We're unaware of the poor conditions of the water infrastructure. Even 4% believe safe, reliable water is more important. I'm getting a terrible feedback. I'm trying to
not talking and mute themselves. Everybody's not talking.
And can we also ask that they full screen that slide?
Yeah.
Can,
Okay.
maybe, everybody on Zoom, think it would help if they muted themselves for this feedback that we're getting?
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, but just to sort of draw some of this to a conclusion. So the survey results were intended to address these public concerns and misconceptions. And we think we can conclude from the work that was done, you know, that some of these facts weren't really understood, that we had invested the $43 million, that the contract includes for annual payments that
John,
reduce every year.
John,
John,
is there a chance that you can maximize your screen.
Full screen slide.
Was bigger first time.
Yeah, I know.
Yes, I'll get rid of his participant view.
Yeah. What you gonna do?
Maybe in slideshow, maybe in slideshow.
Yeah, get rid of these.
I'm not sure about that or not.
And he could max it. Go to the magnifying glass as you're talking, and that can help as well if you can't.
Oh, there you go.
There you go, there.
Is it working better now?
I think,
Yeah.
and I think.
Yeah, go to slideshow and then, from current, slideshow tab up top.
Up at the top, John, next to animations.
I don't see animation in my,
It's in, PowerPoint there. It's in the menu bar at the top.
Second from the left.
Take your mouse straight up. That's all not.
It's in your file line, file, home, insert, design, transition, animation, and slideshow. I think if you go full screen. It's
yeah,
also-
sorry, I'm not,
It's also on display settings. Well, anyway, it's better than what it was. We can-
yeah, I'm sorry, I can't,
Go up to the very top.
yeah, I hear you, I hear what you're saying, it's not there though, I must be on a different,
Oh, okay, you can't see it.
I can't see it now, in fact, I can't see anybody.
Okay.
Well, anyway, if you can see a little bit better, let me, try to power through this, so.
You're on the, what we're seeing, John, is the menu view, like where we're only seeing the biggest screen, we're seeing your cover slide. We're not down on the third page now, but we can see that over in the left-hand box, but it's very small. So it's almost like you gotta go to, and pick slide number 3. I think is where you were.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I definitely have a,
There you go,
how
John.
about that?
Right
How
there.
about
Next-
that now?
Yeah, next to that, slideshow.
Go to slideshow.
Next one
Yeah.
over.
No, to the right,
To the right.
up above.
Animations?
No,
Up to the right.
Animations.
Go to the right, there
There
you
you
go.
go.
Done. Done.
Now you can go to, from beginning, and then just click.
You do.
Do we have this presentation? We do, right?
Yeah, we did, but I don't think it's in PowerPoint. You've got a PDF. Can you see to the left now where it says from beginning?
From begin, yeah.
You just click on that. That should have started it.
What if you double click the first slide? Yeah, double click that.
Double clicking.
Okay, John, one last ditch effort. Up where you clicked on the words slideshow. Two over from that is the word view.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a full screen?
He wants to go to slide, not slide disorder, there should be a slideshow. It said resume slideshow when he was up there on the slide marker. There you go. Resume slideshow. See the box? There.
Yep. Nothing seems to fit.
Fit to window too, might help. Fit to window.
Does that help at all?
Try the fit to window button.
Right next to the Zoom thing you just did. There you go. I don't understand. That was not even working. But it,
See down here should be slideshow.
yeah.
That should, if you clicked on that, should start it.
Are we alright with just proceed as is?
hit F5 on your keyboard.
Okay.
No. Oh, good.
You just have to click the slides on the left-hand pane.
Can you see anything now?
Just you. We lost the PowerPoint. You might have to share your screen again.
Yeah. Right, guys, I don't know what happened, can't see this, but, we're,
If you take your cursor to the bottom, there's a menu pop up. It'll show share your screen, like when we did a while back. Because we're just seeing you now through your we're not seeing your computer. No.
Pardon me. Ellen, do you have any delicious mints?
Delicious mints. I have some delicious.
How's that going? What, chiclets?
Kind of, sort of free.
Oh, is there?
Left over from the snow.
Where's that big bowl of candy that we
You
got?
get to go out and come back in. There you go.
Sorry.
There we go. Now see it.
Oh, awesome.
Frickin'
You got it.
All right.
alright. Okay, where we were is, the fact that we were, had realized that, we discovered that the investment that we had made in Middletown was largely unknown. And also, upon some additional research, that the water rates are actually in line with surrounding communities. I'll show you a slide in a second that explains that in some detail, but the moderately high rates that exist overall when we combine the wastewater and the water together is that the plant has excess, the wastewater plant has excess capacity, so that the capital investment was higher at the time. But when we if you look at this slide that I'm putting up here, on the left-hand side, it looks at, it includes the water and sewer bill combined, and you can see that Middletown, don't know if you can see my cursor, Middletown is about fourth from the highest, I would say moderately high. In the upper right-hand corner, if you look at the water bill, Middletown is the least expensive in the group. And again, as mentioned earlier, it's the sewer bill that makes Middletown moderately high, I guess we would say, in comparison to the other municipalities. So, I guess our view of all of this is that terminating this contract is not economically feasible, and it's not legally feasible, and we want to try to find a way to move forward with the town. No offense to the lawyers on the call, but it's really time to stop, spending millions of dollars that we spent on lawyers, and see if we can come to some agreement on how we can move forward with everybody being as pleased as possible. When we look at the annual contractual base rate increase is about 4.5%, without any capital improvements. The current capital plan, totaling nearly $20 million over 5 years, will result in an annual rate increase ranging from 7 to 13%. The arbitration ruling allows Suez to install 2,500 linear feet of new pipe at an estimated cost of $1.2 to $1.5 million every year as we catch up with the installation of what was missed during the arbitration process. Over the next 5 years, be about $2 million per year, and that we would cover, according to the judge's conclusion, we would recover that investment rates. The pipe installation alone will require incremental rate increase of about 2.5 to 3%. The current capital plan will result in an annual increase ranging from 7 to 13% over the next 5 years. What we proposed as a compromise, because we've now been there for over 5 years, is that we work to target priority investments instead of following this, frankly, arbitrary 2,500 linear feet that I think the lawyers came up with, that we follow best asset management principles, and that we focus on the critical needs of the system, based on consequence of risk of failure, consequence of failure, and that we be more selective on where we invest our scarce capital dollars. So we propose that the annual capital budget of $2.5 to $3 million, which represents a 20 to 35% reduction compared to the 5-year annual capital plan that has already been conditionally approved by the council. This would also result in an incremental rate increase due to capital improvements over the next 5 years, averaging approximately 3 to 3.5%, holding the total annual increase to about 7.5 to 8%. With no rate increases related to the capital program during the first 5 years of the contract, this approach would keep an annual average rate increase over the contract's initial 10-year period well within the national average of about 5 to 6%, as is well documented by a variety of different sources. So, when we first put this together, we thought that we were offering a reasonable compromise, and there's a letter that we sent at the time to Scott Sykes that sort of laid out what we were proposing as far as capital spend, and some things that we could do to be of assistance to the community in Middletown, like we do other municipalities. and that we would work together to, try to educate through direct mail and some videos and infographics, the facts about the concession agreement, and frankly, why it really can't be terminated, and why, in fact, it's really a good thing for the municipality for us to be able to invest in the infrastructure, and that this messaging would include that we had made this upfront payment, that paid off unfunded pension liability, fixed your budget for that year, paid off debt, and that we were now obligated through the contract to make annual capital improvements to address, just like every other municipality, infrastructure that's aged and is in need of repair. And that the rates that you have now and the rates that you have in the future really are not out of line with adjacent municipalities. So I think we're pleased that you've given us an opportunity to kind of review this. We know that you have questions. Just know that we want to reach some resolution with you, and despite some of the things that I've said in the past, we're not trying to be anything other than straightforward and see if we can get this straightened out. Don?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you, John. Yes, I think I would echo everything that John just said. I'm sorry I was having problems with my speaker earlier on. Otherwise, I would have done some introduction. But thank you for the opportunity to be here. And I think that given the time of day that it is, and the length of time you've already been there, I'd entertain any kind of discussion and questions you have right now.
Yeah, one of the questions I have, and I know was in the letter, is the 15% management fee. We asked for a little bit of feedback on where that came from, and from our accounts, it's not in the agreement that we signed between the borough and the joint venture.
Is that something you consider dropping out of the equation? We don't think there's any basis for it.
I don't think we ever said that it was in the agreement that you signed. It's an agreement. It's the agreement between the investors and Suez. And as we've said many times before, it's pretty standard for 15% or higher, frankly, management fee to be included for the project management services that Suez provides. And in the grand scheme of things, if you do the math, the 15% management fee, if Suez is doing their job correctly, is a minuscule impact on rates.
Then you should drop it. I mean, really, there's no basis for it.
Yeah, I don't believe the council sees it as minuscule. The council sees it as a major issue.
Well, do the math on what the impact of that really is.
Yeah, well, why should that be added now?
Well, it's not added now.
It absolutely is added.
Do we have, is Mr. Redinger making a comment?
Yes, gentlemen, joint venture, this is Council President Ian Redinger. You did, where I'm lost is, you just said that agreement was between the joint venture and Suez. So why are you asking the Borough of Middletown ratepayers, taxpayers, to pay that bill? That's what I want to know. You just sat here and said that agreement is between the joint venture and Suez. So shouldn't Suez be paying that 15% to the joint venture? Or am I missing something?
Or vice versa?
Yeah, I don't care.
Let me provide a little background on that. We gave you a the operating agreement, between ourselves and Suez because you had asked for the whole agreement. What we said more importantly is that these costs, the 15%, is an industry standard that is, in many contracts.
Yeah, but you didn't put it in this contract.
For the services that are provided.
Yeah, it's not in this contract, so why are we talking about this?
Well, are you representing, Mr. Mayor, are you representing that the borough of Middletown is responsible for a fee that we're not a party to? Is that what you're representing? I really wanna know, it's a yes or no question. Yes or no?
I thought the judge determined that. I thought the judge
I
determined.
thought we were, alright,
Okay.
okay.
Well, this is, guys, I think the misunderstanding, seems to be that the concession agreement says we're entitled to recover the cost of the capital improvements. Part of that cost.
I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about the 15% administration fee.
Yeah.
Right, and part of that cost.
That's your internal group. That's your arrangement in-house with Suez.
It's part of the cost of the project.
Yeah, so is everything, yeah, it's not that kind of cost.
Yeah.
It's not, you could have built that into the agreement up front, which you didn't.
We do not see that as an agreement between the Borough of Middletown and the JV.
Or a reason to add it now.
Well, it's not being added now. The concession agreement.
Well then, why are you asking about it? We're not paying it, then it's not in the agreement.
We're not asking about it, we're actually including it, because this is what we included as a cost of the construction 4 years ago when we did the first round of construction.
There was a specific one-time agreement on that though, right?
There was an agreement that your attorneys, forced upon us to get the recovery of the capital cost at that time. But it was their statements to us that they understood, and we provided all of those emails even in the arbitration, that this was a cost of the construction during that first year of capital. We see it as a cost of capital construction to manage the project every year, and that's why we're including the cost.
But we see it as an agreement between you and Suez.
Everybody, we have a question or comment from Mayor Jim Curry.
I think Mark Feller was before me.
Oh, Mark Feller.
I was just asking a question.
Go ahead.
Does that imply that if the fee was not payable to the operator, that, you would have incurred that cost anyway by having to hire internal people to carry out that job? Is that what you're implying, at least, by describing it, Steve?
We would have to hire either internal people, or we'd have to hire external people. That would be part of the management of the construction program. We have the engineering of it, we have the actual construction costs, but we have a whole lot that goes into managing it, presenting it to the operating committee and to the council for review and approval. It's a matter of paying all of the bills. It's a matter of putting out the bids for all of the work that's being done as well. So for simplicity purposes, we are using Suez to do that because of the familiarity that they have with the project, and they're the ones that actually do the work for the ongoing construction as well.
And
So
Suez has an ownership interest in a joint venture?
they have a 1% ownership interest in the joint venture.
Okay.
And there's no redundancy between the HRG engineering fee and this, management fee? It's all, you know, I mean, you're paying for engineering, outside company for engineering, but then you would think that some of the 15% would also be related to engineering, but that's not the case?
Well, for example, HRG is not doing I mean, they're preparing the design work, they're doing the detailed design, but not, you know, issuing the bids, you know, tabulating the bids, going through that, and then, you know, managing, overall management of the project. There is a distinction, I guess is the answer.
Thank you.
Mayor Curry.
Yes. To Mr. Joyner or Mr. Correll, do you believe that there is some sort of document that confirms that you think we're liable for the 15%? Where are we a party to that?
You are a party to the concession agreement
Right.
that says that through the capital cost recovery mechanism, we have the ability to recover through that mechanism all of our costs associated with the construction and the management of the construction. That's part of the concession agreement. There's no separate specific agreement with regard to the 15% per se, other than what is in the operating agreement, but that's a separate issue. That's just the number that's just the language that's in that agreement.
I have a question for you then. If that's the, hold on real quick. This is Ian Rainer speaking. I have a question. If that's the case, when we asked you for that language, why didn't you send us that document? Why didn't you send us an excerpt of a document that we're not even a party to? Why wouldn't you just send us that portion of the concession agreement?
Well, you have the whole concession agreement.
But that's not what he's asking.
Well, we asked you.
He's asking you if, when we asked you for what authority makes us liable for the 15% management fee, you sent us an excerpt from an agreement that we're not a party to. So if your position was that it's the original concession agreement that makes us liable for the 15%, why wasn't that the document that you sent us?
The reason why we, at the time, did not send you the entire agreement was that we were.
That's not my question. That's not my.
Yeah, John,
that's not my question. Don't circle around. My question is, why didn't you just send us that section of the concession agreement instead of sending us an excerpt of agreement that we're not even a party to?
It's not the language was in the agreement between Suez and the investors.
Right.
So Mr. Rettinger's point.
That bill, go ahead.
I was gonna say, to Mr. Rettinger's point, that we were not a party to that.
So therefore, you guys can, go ahead.
Okay, this is Dan Sugarman. So I'm part of Water Capital Partners. And just to address your question, if you go to the concession agreement, which you are party to, and you go to the definition of major capital improvement in the concession agreement, which is on page 25, you'll see that in that definition of major capital improvement, it says all costs associated with the design, parentheses, and redesign is consistent with provisions of section 4.4C, engineering, procurement, construction, commissioning, and final completion of all work described in the major capital improvement conceptual design shall be included. And it goes on a little bit.
Yeah, that's part of your operator package that you brought to the table. That's not some outside cost coming from somewhere else.
So
That's what you brought to the table as your resources. I mean, you know, you could use that to charge everything that Suez charges, one of your owners charges in your internal arrangements there. But that's certainly not, there never was anything that said 15% that the borough agreed to.
Because what I'm hearing, Dan, is that you're saying that if they had to get they got new uniforms for somebody doing a project, and it was part of that project, you believe that that's recoverable as part of the construction. I mean, where in your mind, pursuant to that definition, or what agreement you believe we're bound to for the 15%, does it put an end to what you believe is recoverable? Because there's no reference to 15% whatsoever. We're not party to the agreement that references the 15%, and you're trying to use a blanket definition as the crux to lean on to try to sneak this in on the residents. We're just
Just to be clear, just to clear up the characterization there, this isn't a matter of trying to sneak it in.
Oh, it's not.
No, that excerpt
It's not.
is absolutely,
Dan, or Don, Mr. Correll.
If I
I'd go as far to say straw.
Mr.
I'd
Correll.
go as far as say straw.
Let's have Mr. Curry
Once
make,
we-
can we have Mr. Curry, complete his statement?
Mr. Correll, I don't know how you define it as anything other than sneaking it in. We asked on multiple occasions for what authority you had to demand 15% management fee on the residents of the borough of Middletown. To Ian's point, you did not turn around and send a definition page from the concession agreement and said, that's the authority by which you're liable. You sent us a little snippet from some other agreement and said, this is the authority by which you're bound for the 15%. And it wasn't until after we demanded that multiple times and you asked us to, well, finally we got it. It's an agreement that we're not part of. So how is that anything other than sneaky? I mean, that's insulting to me as the mayor of the town. That's insulting.
While we have a little,
Am I allowed to respond now?
can we have 1 second here to go around the room to the rest of the council folks that have, not made comments, to see if they wanna make any comments regarding this, so that we can wind down this conversation, cause it doesn't seem like on this topic we're gonna get anywhere. Mr. Kuzkevich,
No,
Will Becker?
thanks.
No.
Ms. Loy or Noel, do you have any questions?
I-
On this topic specifically?
On the 15%?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, I wanna try to wrap this topic up and then go from there. So, go ahead, Mr. Correll. I think you were the one that was.
Yes, I said, and I'm trying to respond and not to the specific thing. You had specifically asked us, for the full agreement, and that's what we gave you after we gave you, as you said, the snippet or the excerpt from it. But I'll go back to the real, basis for it, which is, as Dan was just describing from the concession agreement, it describes all of the various costs that are eligible for inclusion in the capital cost recovery. We presented that 4 years ago. We presented it, when we had the first capital cost recovery. And during those discussions and when the amendment was signed, it was on the basis of those discussions at that time. We didn't sneak anything, and we had a fulsome discussion with your council at that time, and produced at that time, and produced during the arbitration as well, that indeed it was customary for there to be a management fee of 15 to 17%. So that was the basis on which we have put it in our 5-year plan, and that's the basis on which we included it in the most recent tariff report as well.
Mr. Correll, is there anything in the one-time agreement that was signed when McNeese was the solicitor that says that agreement is binding beyond the situation referenced in that agreement?
I can't really respond to that.
Oh,
It's included as a cost as Dan described, and frankly, in my 30 years in this business, I can't think of an O&M agreement where there's not at least a 15% management.
But that wasn't my.
yeah, and you didn't put it in this agreement. You knew at the time, you put it in your internal operator agreement. You did not put it in this agreement. And you did that knowing you're saying that every agreement you would put it in where you meant it.
Well, it is in the agreement, it's in the definition that.
No, it's not. That's ridiculous. It certainly doesn't say 15%, or, why not 100%?
I just, I see at the top of your slide, it's enough with the lawyers, you wanna be done with it. But what it feels like to me, I know I'm nobody to all of you on the screen. I know that I'm a measly mayor, makes $2,000 a year, I have a small borough, but you don't seem to understand that the reason that we continue to fight is because of this type of situation. I find it disgusting. That one-time agreement back when, McNeese Wallace and Nurk was here, I have not heard an answer from any of you that says it's binding beyond that particular set of facts and circumstances. And as has been pointed out ad nauseum, there is no specific reference to 15% in the concession itself, despite the fact that Mr. Joyner is saying that for 30 years it is always referenced. And you referenced it in your own agreement with Suez and the joint venture. You can't on one hand continue to say to me, as the mayor of this town, small town, I get it, peanuts to you guys, but you can't keep saying to me, this council, and the residents, let's stop wasting money on attorneys, let's come to a deal and work together for the next 45 years. Then let's do it, and stop trying to wring them out like a sponge every single opportunity you have. And I don't appreciate the eye roll. That's exactly the attitude that gets me fired up.
And we'll close it at that on this specific topic. I believe, our legal counsel would say that this is a fee that we are, not a part of, and that is I believe the stance of this council is what I'm hearing, that we feel this 15% management fee is one that, quite frankly, we're not willing to negotiate with this, because there's nothing to negotiate as we see it. We don't see it as something that we're obligated to pay. So, go ahead.
Mr. Sykes, I do have, in respect to the 2,500 linear feet, my question to the joint venture is, they've repeatedly said that our infrastructure is in horrible shape. They have sent videos out of degrading pipes. So I want to know why all of a sudden that replacing that isn't worth it now, and why they want to back off of the 2,500 linear feet. Is it a dollar and cents thing? Is it they don't think they can accomplish that much in a year? But if our infrastructure is bad as they have presented to us and the residents, I think we should be sticking to it.
Well, what
That's
we're
my
really
question to that.
saying, yeah, sure, I understand. What we're really saying is, as we understand all of the assets, all of the underground assets, all the above ground assets, we're going to prioritize where the money gets spent based on the risk of failure and the consequence of failure. So to replace water mains, 500 feet of water mains on a street, that has 4 houses on it arbitrarily because some lawyer put it in contract, versus something else that has.
So would you then make proposals to the council, lay out, here's what we would propose, you approve it, council, to shift to those things, or would you say you're gonna just pick what those priorities are?
In my experience, getting politics involved in exactly what water mains get replaced versus, metrics like age of pipe, condition of pipe, what type of pipe it is. It's more important to follow those engineering principles.
Right, come in with the engineers, lay it out for council, and council, with here's the price for these things, and, here's what we propose, this is the menu, and here's why we think these are more important, and here's what the cost is, and then council pick and choose. That maybe that does make sense.
Hold on, Mr. Sykes, who was talking?
That was Mr. Diamond.
No, before that, on joint venture side.
It's John Joyner.
Mr. Joyner, just as you said, it's in the contract, and that's what you've been saying to us so long as well. It's in the contract. So my position is 2,500 linear feet. It's in the contract to do. There's things in the contract that I don't want. I don't want the water sale shortfall that's in the contract, but I'm stuck with it. So if you want to negotiate on things that are in the contract, we can negotiate on things that are in the contract. You want to get rid of 2,500 linear feet, I want to get rid of some of the water sale shortfall. Let's bring it to the table. If we're not talking about that, then I think you should be held with what's in the contract, period. I don't care if the attorney put it there or not. It's in the contract.
It's pretty interesting thinking.
Hey, things in the contract I don't like, but I have to live with it. And I've heard multiple times on your side, well, it's in the contract. Well, sir, it's in the contract. I don't know, it's what the judge said, it's in the contract. Well, 2,500 linear feet, it's in the contract. If you wanna negotiate the 2,500 linear feet, I'm up to negotiate it when I wanna talk water sale shortfall.
The 2,500 linear feet was an arbitrary number. It wasn't really based on any knowledge, and that, you know.
Yeah, and so is the water sale shortfall. To be quite frank, that's a bullshit number. But it's in the contract. That attorney's put there.
Well, we are prepared to have a discussion at this point, and the purpose of this presentation, as we've been saying since we first presented in May, was based upon our knowledge gained over several years now. We were looking to provide the borough with an opportunity to perhaps not have the level of rate increases and capital investment that are in the contract. And we felt that there was a way to smooth it out, and we thought that there was an efficient way to do it. We are fully prepared to do what's in the contract. We have 2,500 linear feet. We doubled up this past year. We're likely to double or maybe triple up this year because of what wasn't done the first couple of years. But we're also getting to the point now where we have sewer mains that need to be done as well as a result of what's in the contract. And we also know that we have a lot of tanks that need to be done. And so we were trying to smooth those things out. We're fully prepared to do what's in the contract. But in the interest of presenting you with a full picture over the next 5 years of not just a bunch of engineering reports and capital spend, but to show you what the rate impact of those things were going to be as well, that's why we made this proposal to you. So,
There's nothing
I mean, we're-
tangible though in what you're physically talking about doing.
Well, I think in the discussions that we've had very tangible discussions about it, that we would amend the agreement not to have specific references to 2,500 linear feet, but we would instead talk about an annual capital budget. What we're proposing is just a lesser amount of capital spending which has a rate impact. That's what we were proposing to the council. And we were talking about just being able to manage to an annual capital amount.
Could you do it, what about a cap that doesn't roll over to the next year?
I would agree, that was one of my concerns when I first saw that.
Well, we're talking about what's reasonable and practical in terms of managing it. Just as we found out this past year, in doing the two 2,500 linear feet tranches this year, there was additional work that came up, and you can't just manage it to say, okay, I'm going to get to a certain dollar amount and then I'm going to cut it off without knowing that you may not get to that exact number. There may be a little bit of carryover to the following year. But to say that you're going to manage to only get to a certain dollar amount, 2.9 million instead of $3 million, and then say, that's fine, but if you get to 3.1 million, you can't average it out. The 2,500 linear feet in the contract, if we're talking about principles here, what is stated as an average over the term of the contract. So even with the 2,500 linear feet, we don't have to do it per year. There's a recognition that in managing this, you just can't get to an exact number. So that's why we proposed a $3 million budget, and we said if we went over 1 year, we would take it into account the following year.
I think the last proposal was a $2.8 million budget, correct?
Yes, 2.8. Yeah, on August 14th, you quoted 2.8.
Yeah, prior to that it was $3 million, back in May, I think. I have a question related to the rate comparison that is on, I think, page 5 of your report, regional comparison of average annual residential bills. Do those numbers include the water sales shortfall surcharge, or is that just the rate cost?
Hello?
Yeah, I believe it's, just the rates, and that it does not include the water sales shortfall.
So then in true actual cost, we could add another 15%.
Probably it's probably the case because it was based on 2018 data, so that was, might have only been, that might have been just at the start of the shortfall.
Okay. So then our water rate is up higher than, and our sewer than portrayed.
I guess we should see those charts brought up to date.
The other question I had was you referred to smoothing things out with your proposal. I guess I'm assuming that you're talking about smoothing out the rate increases to the residents. Am I correct?
Correct.
If we were gonna smooth out the rate increases to the residents.
That was the intent.
So if we're looking to do
I
something.
think if you,
Hold on, Doc.
Okay, if we're looking to do something for the residents to smooth out the rates, why do we have to continue to have a threshold number that includes, the retail sales of the borough of Royalton included and placed upon the people of Middletown? Because that's in the agreement, that's where that number came from. And I know we've already arbitrated this number, and it's in the agreement, and Middletown lost because it's in the agreement. But if we're gonna smooth something out, I mean, you're getting paid twice, and why I see it, for Middletown water, from the residents of Royalton and from the residents of Middletown.
Yeah, and Suez is getting paid twice now for any accounts like Turnpike that move with a guarantee to one Suez ownership arm to
So
another.
that, in my opinion, certainly doesn't
There's
smooth
gonna be an
things
issue
out.
we're gonna have to deal with also.
Two completely in groups of investors, I don't think you can say, I don't think that's
Well, we'll
accurate
see,
to say.
but it's an issue.
And we've been doing everything we can to retain them as a customer, you know.
Any comments to, Ken's question regarding Royalton?
I'd be prepared to address it. If you can write that down to us, I'll be prepared to discuss it at the next operating committee meeting. I don't wanna go out on a limb and speak to the math or the theory of the agreement. As you said, it's in the agreement, it was arbitrated, but if there's a specific premise that you wanna address, I'm happy to take a look at it.
Yeah, the premise I'm just addressing is fairness to the residents of Middletown, that's all. I know it's in the agreement, but it just doesn't seem fair.
That probably is the toxic point here that's impacting the view of everything, is that shortfall.
Can I ask my question, please?
Go ahead.
John, on slide number 4.
Yeah.
Point number 2, you say you're paying the borough a life agreement starting at $750,000 throughout the life of the agreement. Nowhere in there, you're thinking that you want to address the public concerns and the misconceptions. Well, that is a true misconception. Because you nowhere in any of the things that I've seen from you in this video, in this slideshow, nowhere in there do you state that the borough gives you half of that money back, and has for the past 6 years.
Give it back. Could you explain that?
That's,
We give you half of what you give us back.
she's referring to the impact of
You're-
the Fifth Amendment.
Of amendment number 5, yeah, that was a choice that the borough made, at the time we had the first, capital cost recovery request.
Yeah, but you didn't correct that
continued to
information for the
make
public
Right.
to reflect
You have
that.
it out there to the public, telling the public that you're giving us $750,000 as
Yeah, but you're still taking credit like you just handed that money to the borough. You're misrepresenting that, materially misrepresenting that, is what Dawn's
Just like you did with the 15%. Just like you did with the 15%.
I mean, we all want to be honest here, and every time I look at something, there's something misleading in there, something misguided, and it does not sit well with me every time I see it.
And gentlemen, the last point I'll make tonight to piggyback off what Councilwoman Knoll just said. I don't know how much you paid for your survey, but that thing is not worth the paper it's printed on. If you want me to do a survey of this town, I can promise you that what the people think of Suez is nowhere near the numbers that you are representing in this slideshow. And I would.
Well, you could do a joint survey in a public hall once
Yeah.
COVID lifts.
I would welcome that
And
because
see it play out in real time with.
I would welcome that. That's not to be contentious. I'm just telling you flat out. I know this town better than you, and I'm telling you that these people are livid. That satisfaction survey that he did is not worth the paper it's printed on. Come to a meeting when we can, as he just indicated, and let's let the public come and tell you how they feel and how they're suffering. I can promise you that survey is nowhere near accurate. And I bet you any council member sitting at this table, because different residents go to different council members with concerns through friendships or just past experiences, I bet you no one at this table will say that a resident came to them and said they love Suez and they think this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Not one. So I welcome that, and I appreciate that you're willing to go back and look at what Ken had mentioned and what Ian is harping on. And my point is, I would like you to hear from the public themselves. We don't need a third party to go out and do a survey for you. Come and talk to the residents themselves.
So am I hearing you and Mr. Diamond recommending a town hall forum with Suez?
I would welcome that.
Yep, I would second that.
Yep. What are your thoughts on that, Mr. Joyner?
Let's give that some thought. Sounds like a lynching.
Well, why? If your survey is accurate, it can't be a lynching. If your survey is accurate, it cannot be a lynching.
Well, we'll talk it over.
I will tell you right now, if I
probably love that.
If I went on Facebook at this moment and wrote one word, Suez, I could promise you there would not be one positive comment. This is not about a lynching. This is not about throwing you to the wolves. You're sitting here with a slideshow telling us, look how much everyone loves us. It's bull.
You know it's not true, we know it's not true, it's just a waste of time.
Come here and see them face to face. Let's get this done. I want you to hear from them that they cannot handle this. Let's be objective about it. I understand the point you're making. I understand that there's negotiations. It's called a compromise. I get it. But come and hear from them before you start throwing around these surveys.
Hey guys, we did a survey. We thought it would be productive. You did great.
Wholeheartedly, and I want you to have the first-hand experience. You don't need to pay somebody to hear what the people think.
Any comments from Mr. Kluska?
Nope.
Ms. Holmbeck? Ms. Miller? Ms. Lloyd, Knoll, or Ian?
Sounds good, thank you.
Do you wanna conclude with any comments? Alright,
get back together.
Yeah.
In a month, maybe?
I think, both parties here can take the information that was exchanged and, maybe regroup here in February and see where we stand and go from there. Does that seem fair?
I would also welcome, if any of you are interested in the operations of the contract, we have an operating committee meeting, regularly scheduled, for next week. I would welcome any of you who, would like to attend that as well. We, regularly talk about the status of all of the construction, as well as all of the things we report on a monthly basis in our operating reports. We will certainly be talking with Ken and either Mark or Jim next week at the operating committee meeting.
Thank you very much for your time.
Scott, hold on.
Go,
Go ahead.
Dawn, go ahead.
Regarding the meeting next week, but I would like, an email information because I would like to be on the call.
Did you, the gentleman hear that? We have a counselor that would like to, be present via Zoom for the meeting next week. I believe we have,
And who?
I believe we
Yeah,
have
we can-
two members.
Okay, and-
I'd like,
No, I think that's all. Just in.
Yeah, Angela Lloyd and Dawn,
And Jenny.
Jenny Miller.
Okay, we'll make sure that when the, invite reminders go out, that both of them are included in that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy New
Okay,
Year.
thank you.
Thanks, good night.
Thank you.
Alright. I believe, next item would be.
Hold
What?
on. Like a hot mic.
Sit down.
There you go. Now you can.
Good?
Sounds fine, Dawn.
Make sure that.
Did he end it for everybody?
You must have ended it for everybody.
Okay, guys.
Instead of signing it back.
So we gotta get, that's a, don't, and
He
don't
ended
forget.
the Zoom for everybody.
Yeah, because we made in the host.
Yeah. Well, I guess the last item we had would be.
That was all.
Does council wanna discuss that, or?
I think.
You know what I just did for you people? I took you out of the dark.
I'm here.
Yeah, but the ladies were through Zoom and he shut them all down, so they need to.
We need to call them.
I can't call them through there, they have to come through Zoom.
Mr. Sykes,
Yes.
Mr. Sykes, remember that there's some personnel that we may have to come out and attend to.
Yeah, I think we
So
were,
remember that.
we were gonna first see if there was any new business.
No, I just was reminding you while we had the second catch up.
Alright, yeah, we got kids out, hold on, merging going.
Okay.
So I can close this down then if you're not in.
Yeah.
That was something.
Angie and Dawn, do we have any new business from either of you?
That was informative. They don't wish to discuss anything, basically.
Any option you give.
It's in the contract.
What?
No, it's
I'm
not.
gonna do it.
I will.
Alright.
Nor you want to hit it.
No, we're still on.
Where is she?
Okay.
Alright,
We're good, no, sorry, no, I don't have any new business.
Dawn, any new business?
No, sir.
General public comment?
Yeah.
General public comment?
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Still is passing out a, paper. And Mr. Wagner.
Jack Still, 37 West Wall Street. I've said this before, that there's more electric meters in town than there are buildings. So the more that we can use the electric funds, the more people share the pain. So, and I asked Tom Mahaffey about what he thought about the, Bernstein thing. And he said it was brought up in 17 and 18, it didn't go anywhere, and nothing was brought up in 19 and 20. So just, keep using some of the, funds for the general fund from electric sales. And the, last thing is, you have a, whatever became of the parking down at Woodland Court? Are you doing something to the ordinance on that or something?
Yeah.
That was,
Okay. Is there any language in that?
It's already passed.
Oh, well, let me say what I was gonna say.
I'm sorry.
Well,
It
let
was,
me,
yeah.
well, was there any language in there, that the parking can be used for, residents and visitors? Cause what you're ran into down there was, they're just saying residents and nobody else,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, the problem was if it got too broad, then the folks at the apartment building would, and their visitors would just park there.
No, I think you're saying can we get them to put residents and visitors in their line, right?
Well, or whether it was in ours or somewhere.
In the development agreement of their parking.
Oh, in their agreement. Is that what you're asking, not in the ordinance?
Well, either or, both, whatever, but you,
Not in
you
the
get the.
ordinance.
you
Not
get-
in the ordinance, you know.
Okay.
Intentionally, cause we didn't wanna open it up.
Alright.
So the reality is if you
Yeah,
have
it
one in
is
your
what it is,
family, if you have, you know, permits, if you have a caretaker or whatever, you can, you know, hand them the permit, they can park there.
You understand what I'm saying, so.
And just so you know, it was stated from 3 to 11.
Yeah.
So people could still, like, a caretaker for Woodland Hills or Woodland Court could still park on the street at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 7 in the morning. They just come park there from 3 to 11.
Okay. But what they were doing, they were excluding people in their own agreement. Okay.
Yeah, they weren't allowing
Right.
visitors to park
Right.
there.
So
We think we have something that works. If
Okay.
not, you know, we'll have to tweak it, but
okay.
best we could.
Thank you.
No other public comments, is there a motion to adjourn to executive session coming back?
Recess to.
Recess to executive session, coming back to the board.
Sure.
Second?
Alright. All in favor? we still have all the, folks on the phone?
Going in?
You're not here? Nope. Or are you guys back out? I can't.
We're back
Yeah,
out, we're
yes.
back out.
Okay.
We're back out. So, bring back to order the, meeting here. Believe there is an agenda item.
Yeah, we had an executive session to discuss matters of personnel and real estate. We have, one personnel matter to take action on, and, we have a pending motion.
Okay. We have a recommendation from the borough manager to grant Detective Gary Rux an honorable discharge based on a non-work related injury.
Motion by Ms. Willenbecker.
Second.
Second by Mr. Christovich. Is there any public comments? Mr. Still?
No.
Any
Sure,
comments?
it's not public comment, it's just council discussion.
Question.
Now, public comment, because we're now bringing an action item to
As an
the,
act- okay.
yeah. It wasn't on the agenda, so we've now announced it, then we'll go to the discussion among council.
Any comments from council?
I'd just like to personally thank, Gary Rux for his, years of service here in Middletown, his dedication to the community, and we certainly wish him well.
Seeing no comments, Grace, if you call the roll.
Mr. Kliskevich?
Yes.
Ms. Knoll?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Sykes?
Yes.
Ms. Willenbecker?
Yes,
Mr. Reddinger?
Yes.
Carried 7-0. Any other additional business? Motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.